In that case, hey guys, Tarke here, and today we've got Empy on, which is very exciting, and then less exciting people. But before we get into this show,
Really, you're gonna open with that?
yes,
Terrible opening.
That's how we're using it. So, Raiz, what have you been up to?
I haven't had internet, so I wasn't able to stream. So I've been just playing Dota. That's it. And catching up on Promised Neverland. If you like anime and mangas, it's a pretty good show.
Oh,
That's it. My intro's short this time around.
Since you're playing Dota, does that mean you're actually happy for once?
Yeah, you could say that. Everybody knows
that was
Dota.
an enthusiastic
Dota makes
answer.
you, it makes you so happy. You're just like surrounding yourself with all sorts of different cultures, different people, different languages. Nonstop, it's great. It's a real hub for just getting hardcore cultured.
You learn so many awful insults in so many different languages. It's great.
I don't, dude. Everybody's nice to me. Just gotta not feed, no problem.
What about you, MP? You happy at the moment?
Yeah, pretty happy. Just blasting. Really nice league. Probably one of my favorites. Like top 3 for sure. It's been a blast so far.
What are your top 3 out of interest?
Delve, Legion, and this, I would say. In no particular order, maybe. Actually, Delve is probably highest.
Oh, man.
Are you talking about the league or the league mechanic?
The league. Yeah.
Have you
haven't really
heard
touched the league
Raiz's
yet,
theory
so-
of that it's a good league, bad mechanic thing he likes to do?
No?
What do you mean? It's normal, no? Sometimes you just like really enjoy a league, but the league mechanics kind of like
Sure.
not so
But
great.
it always gets better, right? Like anytime they bring out something new, by the time next league rolls around, it's a great mechanic. Like look what happened to Blight. I actually don't know because I skipped Blight, but all I heard about Blight is how it just stopped you from mapping. You were just sitting there all the time protecting the pump, bored out of your mind. And then the next league, it happens every 10 maps, and it's actually like a nice change of pace. Like you're blasting, and then there's a Blight. I'm gonna chill a bit.
See, but isn't that the case for like literally everything ever?
Yeah.
That the way people describe leagues, it's not necessarily that they're actually better. It's just like I miss synthesis, I miss bestiary, I miss, because like the people that really didn't like it don't speak up anymore. But
I don't think it's
feedback's
just
pretty
that. I
overwhelming.
think a lot of it is also just the gameplay flow thing. Like I think Delirium, like for example, the people who I don't like being rushed all the time. Whereas they don't mind being rushed every now and again. So I feel like Blight, Delirium, every 10 maps going a bit faster is fine, and every 10 maps going a bit slower with Blight is fine. But if you're always feeling rushed or always feeling slowed down, that's when it becomes like oppressive. Yeah.
Also, it's shoved in your face, right? In Blight, you have it every map. If you skip it, you're kind of missing out on a lot of stuff. If you don't like Blight and you skip it, you're just missing out in like 1 in 10 maps.
See, for me, I've never had that feeling of like having to rush in Delirium. Maybe because I've played way too many Archmage builds at this point. So it's just like you're just clearing, right? You don't really care about the timer. But I haven't really had that feeling. Even on like a Ice Nova guide that I played with a Pledge of Hands, which isn't that fast, especially since I didn't have the Frostbolt jewels. It still felt reasonable. I never felt like I was missing out on content by not totally rushing.
A lot of it depends on the map as well. Certain maps really are bad with it. It's like if I run a shore and I'm slightly slow because it goes. So I usually go like from the top, right? And you go down, but it just goes down immediately, right? So you're trying to kind of do this thing when it's just going down. It's really that one's rough. So I don't really run that map anymore. I'm playing a jog as well, and I definitely feel like if you mess up just a little bit and it's not really clearing the way you want it, then it can run away from you. Like if you're on a slightly slow build, it can definitely run away from you. But this was like with the really good gear.
What build is your jug?
Hoa. Hell of Agony. Yeah. So it's like a little slower, but I have all the gear, right? I even have a line S6 linked. Like all the trigger gems and everything. So it should be like speedy compared, but I still fall behind, even like in a beach if I'm like messing up.
Does it like bother you? Because most people, the
bothers
thing
me
was
when
like
a boss spawns at the edge.
Oh, okay.
And then you get him like to 50 HP, and it's like, boop, he disappears. It's like, wait, oh.
Yeah.
So imagine that happens to you every time if you're playing like a suboptimal build, right? It'd be really frustrating really fast.
Just don't play suboptimal build. Oh, sorry.
That's smart.
Yeah, like I really don't mind the time that much, but I will agree with that. It does feel kind of shitty when it's like, oh, now this just decides to piss off. I also still don't think the mechanic works well at all with Jhin, even though they've like fucked around with the timers. The fact that you have to stop and look at all your different options, and it's like, nah, fuck you. And it's like,
In general, I wish they would make the syndicate screen smaller. I know that's like a total tangent, but like the fact that it still takes up the whole screen is really weird to me. Yeah.
I mean, if they had some means of doing it, I don't think it would be problematic for them to like pause the fog's progression while you're in the syndicate menu, because you're not killing monsters while you're in the syndicate menu. Like you can't cheese that. If you're sitting there looking at the syndicate menu, maybe a summoner build could kill a few more packs around you, but like I don't think it's going to be a problem. And then you don't have to worry about taking your time to make the decision.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some like way to cheese it, right? Where like you click it and you move, you click it, maybe you leave a like a smoke mine,
Just
people
have
just
the-
abuse it to some
Just
weird
have the
degree.
map host click it, and everyone else like clears the map.
This is true. I wasn't considering party play.
Yeah.
I think universally it would be nice though to have like a more smooth mechanic for it, because it locks you out of seeing anything, right? So things shoot you from the side. It would be nice if you could have it, you know, minimize, like just not taking up the whole screen, so you could see what's coming out on the edges.
Oh,
So-
just a little on the edge, like just so it doesn't cover the entire screen. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
About the size of Metamorph, I thought, because like Incursion's still a little big. Metamorph, I thought was
Yeah.
like it was big, but you could see shit. But then again, there's not nearly as much to read. Because like people
Yeah.
forget, but there's syndicate members still have items and all this sort of stuff you kind of have to pay attention to. So
It just makes me imagine having like a metamorph size screen, but it's the exact same size. Otherwise, you have to like click and drag and scroll around this massive
You could
menu in this tiny little window. Like
you
trying
could
to
do
find each person.
you could do a middle ground of have a smaller menu that you can like pop up just by clicking on the downed enemy, but also the larger menu, if you want to look at it, is available with
Yeah.
the V key or something conditionally.
or you add an option to the UI, like you know how you can do the tab map transparency. That if you wanted to, you could turn the transparency down a little bit, so you could just kind of see through the menu.
Yeah,
That would
that
work.
could
oh,
work.
that would be nice.
Mhm.
Damn, and I thought I was going on a tangent. Nice.
It's I've been bitching about that a while recently, but I think this is gonna be UI class. But anyway, what about you, Ziggy? What have you been doing recently?
I think last podcast I'd started the bleed bow with trying out the new sniper Salem helmet. Turns out that was really good. Salem is insanely good for bleed punctures. It's probably quite good for burning arrow too, although that does have a stacking mechanic which might make it not quite as good, but puncture is like so juicy with it. So yeah, I had a lot of fun on that build for quite a while, just one-shotting most bosses and insta-phasing most things. It's definitely up there at the moment. I think bleed bow, like gladiator styles and stuff like that, is just generally quite good now. And then the addition of even more single target for that is really good. So I didn't expect to have a dot build like that had that level of single target. So that was something else. But it also kind of playing Archmage, and then which felt like it had tons of scaling. I felt like it could have went way further with that if I went low life and stuff like that. And then going into like bleed bow gladiator with the new snipe stuff. Third build was actually after that I did the hollow palm technique. And after playing those other two, I was actually a little bit like disappointed with the scalability I felt. It like definitely the strongest leveling in the game I've ever played, and like the strongest early end game. But it definitely like reached a soft ceiling and hit that point of where I'm only getting incremental linear scaling beyond that. So kind of like just to be a special snowflake, did like a tectonic chieftain instead of like doing something probably actually good. So that probably had an impact rather than doing like impale and having a great extra means of scaling, or just sticking with like berserker or raider or champion or something probably would have been way better. But I mean, it was good, don't get me wrong. It was like I hit like 3-4 million DPS, and I was like, oh yeah, if I do these I can get like another million here. And survivability overall was pretty good, and it was pretty smooth playing style. But yeah, it just didn't kind of like blow me away at all compared to the other stuff. I guess I just kind of didn't give it a fair opportunity after playing like Bleed Blow Gladiator with the snipes. It was just too much to compare to. But I actually kind of got bored of trading this league. So I was still really, I found myself in a position where I was still really enjoying Delirium quite a bit. I'm liking this league at the moment, especially post all the changes. It's gotten really good. So I decided I'm going back to solo self-found hardcore. I'm doing it. It's been like a year or something since I played hardcore. And I started yesterday and I died at level 3 on the beach to a Delirium boss 5 Fury snipe.
Oops.
But then
level 3.
it was so good. It like humbled me perfectly right at the beginning, right? Like I walked in and I'm like, herb derp, get sniped by this freeze. So that was like the perfect start for hardcore because it's like got me in the right mindset. I've been afraid of everything and respecting everything since then. So but my run so far since then has been blessed because apparently I made the appropriate sacrifices because I got like a Tabula from Einhardt, like level 23. I got a perfect Goldbrim from Normal Lab. I got like a Crest of Parandus. I got Nomic Storms. I got a Thief's Torment. And I'm like level 40 something.
What build are you playing?
Gotten like, I'm doing, what's it called? Bane Occultist. I was like, Essence Drain. Then I was like, too many people saying too many Essence Drains. Someone suggested Bane Occultist. I was like, you know what? I'm actually pretty up for the curse scaling idea. So I'm going for the Bane Occultist if I live so long. It's going good so far. Yeah, I'm more twinked out than most of my trade league characters are at this point for leveling, so it's going to be cruisy leveling.
What about you, Octavian?
I actually just swapped over to hardcore as well yesterday. I swapped to trade hardcore. I'm going to be league starting with a Stone Golemancer, modeled off of one that Uber Elite did a couple leagues ago with a few changes. I've not done a Golemancer ever before. I did one briefly in softcore and really liked it, but was just incredibly like burnt out on the endgame mapping and stuff, and I needed a fresh restart. So I figured I'd just play the same build because I liked it and swap over to hardcore trade.
What kind of Golemancer?
Stone golems.
Stone golems, you said.
Yes.
How so?
What do you mean how so? Like how am I building it?
Why not like ice golems or
honestly, impale scaling is the plan with the rotten claws notable for 100% impale chance. But I looked at path of buildings from a number of different folks on PoE Ninja and like Uber Elite's version and stuff for carrion, ice, flame, and stone. And honestly, the numbers looked incredibly similar pretty much across the board. So I just chose the one that sounded the coolest. And stone golems make a big old slappy noise when they multi-strike, and it's awesome. So I'm using stone golems. That is my reasoning. I wish it were objectively stronger than that, but that is my reasoning.
I think that's perfectly good reasoning. Everything should be done on aesthetics, as far as I'm concerned. So I've done the opposite of Octavian and Ziggy. I've recently gone back to softcore SSF. Raiz, you'll like this. So I was leveling a Stormfire Ignite build. And then I died before I got to equip the fucking ring. And I was like, fuck you, game. I was so triggered. It's just like you can't equip it till level 80, and it's just like, can't wait for my build to work. Can't wait for my build to work. And I was like, I'm not doing this again. What made it even worse though is I'd had like a couple of deaths in a row. I don't mind dying on established builds. If I've like played the build, I've done all the maps on the bosses, and it dies, I don't care how much money. I'm like, yeah, that was good. I enjoyed it. Dying early on a build is like the worst thing for me. So after the last podcast, I wanted to set myself the goal of doing a full simulacrum clear, because just hearing it, I'm like, I want to do a full 2020. It's gonna be difficult doing it in hardcore, but like that's what I want to do. So I was playing my Poison Scourge build. Loved that. That was really fun. Then I was telling chat a story and walked into a core slam and got one shot. Don't walk into core slam. Just don't do that. So then I was like, okay, let's just get a really tanky build for doing Simulacrum. What's the plan? And Ellie Hit Ballista's champion is actually like a really legit build. Has like really good damage, really good survivability. And you're getting like 200-300k with like a Quill Rain on each totem. And you got like 8 totems and they taunt, and it's like loads of damage reduction and fortify and all this other stuff. And
How's the life on the totems now?
super tanky. They feel good.
Good.
Nice.
They feel really good. So I start leveling it. I got to like Act 8, and I'm like, fuck, totems are boring as shit. I hate this. It was great. It was demolishing. Like, this is the most boring build I've ever played. And because the totems taunt, you're even more passive because just like all the mobs attack them. You're just standing there.
Don't
like,
exist.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm done. Like, screw this. So then I was like, okay, what do I want to play? I want to do something with Ignite. And I knew that Garatha was playing a Stormfire Arctrix, and he was doing really well farming Simulacrum with it. I was like, dude, I'll play that. We don't have any Stormfires available in my league, but I'll just do like normal Fireball, and eventually I'll transition. And while I was leveling that character, I saw a dude on YouTube who had a really nice Scion version, and it had like 6k mana, like 5k life, and it was like super crazy. I'm like, oh, if I had the Stormfire, I'd play that because that'd be good off the bat, but I don't have the Stormfire, so it's fine. So then I got to like Act 6, and someone's like, oh, I can sell you a Stormfire ring. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll reroll Scion real quick. Got the Scion to like Act 9 and was like, this has no cast speed. Fuck it, went back to Trickster. Got the Trickster into maps, then died just before I equipped the ring. So it felt like I played for a year and a half without like doing anything. Because it just, I said, in the grand scheme of things, it was maybe like at most 3 days. Because it doesn't take long to like go through the leveling, but it just felt so long. So I took a day off because I hadn't had a day off since like league start, and randomly started a Puncture Bleed Bow and SSF. That destroys. It's like super nice to leveling with no gear. And in 2 days of being an SSF, I've gotten a Cospri's Malice drop, an Energy from Within, and plus additional explosions, Explosive Trap Helm enchant, and a Hollow Palm. So it's kind of like, you know what?
Nice.
I could probably chill in SSF for a bit now. So I'm having quite a lot of fun with that. And yeah.
Sounds kind of good.
Yeah, sounds slightly good.
I'm watching the Garatha arc stuff. Looks really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
His mana cost doesn't even seem that high.
Yeah. He was using like 3 Fevered Mines. The thing which was funny about that is, so if you don't know what he was doing, chat, he was doing Stormfire, so your lightning damage can ignite, Archmage, Arc, and he was like hardcore farming 2020 Simulacrums, face rolling it, like he was just burning through it. I was like, this is such a good build. I randomly like put on his stream, and I didn't even know it, but I happened to choose the wave he died on, and it was an increased AoE Kosis, and he just gets just one splat, and he's like, normally I can stand in the corner, but apparently he's got a bit too much AoE for me to stand in the corner. Yeah. Kosis and hardcore seems like a bit of a...
It's got to be a jug.
But,
Or
a
use
Guardian.
other build.
Speaking of ethical Guardians, Empy, would you like to like lay out the timeline?
Speaking of nerfed builds that are dead in the water.
Oh no.
Totally dead.
Yeah, I've been just playing this Guardian for a week now. Like basically the first week we always do like group play, but then this week or this league I joined my EU friends after the first week to like a different group to farm a few more days with them. And then I've been doing solo stuff. I'm playing this Guardian that's been nerfed, but it still kind of works because it turns out if you spend like 1,000 exalts on a build, then it works even after they nerf it. So that's what I've been doing mostly. Like all the content on the, it's pretty fun.
What was your... Okay, so for anyone who somehow hasn't heard, there was this slightly good cluster jewel. Would you like to explain the interaction?
Okay, sure. So there's this jewel called the Purposeful Harbinger, and it's pretty good. It gives you, I don't know what the exact wording is. It basically scaled all of your auras. Like it gave you damage for each herald on you. I think that's like for each, and you're using 5 heralds on the build, so that's 50%. But it also scaled things that it shouldn't have scaled. So it scaled Tailwind, even if it was on boots. So Tailwind gave you like what 100% movement speed. It scaled the Avian aura, which is 20% with the chest, so it also gave you 100% movement speed. and it scaled every single aura that you stole with Headhunter. So if you got a haste buff,
Oh shit.
that's another 100% plus movement speed. So what it ended up being is that your character was so fast that it was like uncontrollable. If you stole like 1 or 2 haste, you like if you pressed move a little bit and you were 5, 6, 7 screens. So it was a bit too much. It also scaled some items. I didn't make use of those because I wasn't playing a spell build, but it scaled a Spore Guard chest. So you got like added chaos damage for every aura, I guess you have. So it's like hundreds of percentage of added extra chaos. And it also scaled all the ascendancies that kind of counted as auras but weren't really auras. So they changed the node to be only affecting skills now. So it only scales your auras now.
And it is now terrible and dog shit, and no one should play it.
And I mean,
GGG's
it's still
ruined the
it's
game.
still one of the strongest builds in the game. It's just not you just can't start it on a very low budget, and it's not gonna scale like the broken shit like Tailwind and stuff. One more thing, it also scaled Solstice, meaning the Shaper's Presence aura that you got actually gave you 80-second Headhunter buffs, because like without self-cursing. So you just put on a Solstice and your Headhunter buffs lasted 80 seconds instead of 20. So that has been fixed also.
How do you
It's
think
still nice.
they can go about nerfing this for next league without like just nerfing all cluster jewels? Because I've heard some really stupid ideas on how to do it.
I mean, there's many ways. You can reduce the number, you can play around with the numbers so that it's not just worth only building for this, or you can lower the like disable stacking, or just reduce the number of these jewels that you can use, like maybe not to 1 but like to 3 or something. Like I'm currently using 7 on my build and 2 heraldries. Actually, never mind, I'm using 9, but only 7 of them are endbringers. So if you use 3 voices, I mean, I think with an ascendant you can make a 4 voices build, but I think it's too like stretched for ES then. But still, yeah, maybe limiting it to 3 or something like that could work, or just reducing the numerical buff.
Do you think they would have it so only... Because I think if they were to stop stacking, they'd be tempted to stop stacking all of the jewels, which I think would be kind of lame.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't think it should be limited. And it would be kind of weird if they added 281 passives and then only one of them was limited to 1, right? But it's like, okay, that's probably a pretty good one.
I don't think they
Do you
want to
think
do
they
that
could,
either.
Do you
Because
think they
like you
could-
can't.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You go ahead. No, it's too late now.
I was wondering if they could buff the number on the effect itself and turn it into a keystone.
Yeah.
And then you can only have 1.
Sure. Yeah, that could work.
Make it like 20% or 25% instead of 10.
Mm-hmm. Just
Well,
put it in
the
the
thing
middle
is,
of the tree.
I think generally what they look for in builds is not to, because like a lot of those arguments get brought up for Fevered Mind as well. It's like, oh, just limit it to 1, then Archmage is fine. But it's like, you don't really want to end up in a summoner situation where you don't really have an investment, right? Only
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
initial cost. You want like some sort of character progression. So
Yeah.
that would be an especially weird
I
solution.
think that's really cool that there are builds where you're like, okay, I'm gonna build around this thing, and to build around this thing, I'm gonna need to buy like 7 of these jewels, or for this
Yeah.
build to even work. Like maybe just tinker around with the numbers a bit, but I think those builds are cool to exist. Like where you like stack a particular type of thing just so that you can boost something very, very high, and then it works.
I mean, saying that, they kind of killed Grand Spectrum, but that used to be like the OG one.
You can bring that back.
I guess. See, but the thing is,
Limited
Okay.
to 4. Boom.
wait, isn't that what it is not
No,
right
it's
now?
3,
Like
isn't it?
3.
Yeah.
3.
So it's like just slightly under where it's like worth it on anything.
Would you say Empy overall that after having played this and like you've played a lot of strong builds with a group of people for a while now, did this build feel absurdly ridiculous to the
Yes.
point where it
Yes.
warranted a nerf mid-league?
Absolutely, 100. The nerf was 200% warranted. Like when I put on the gear and I just went into a map, like I killed my first haste elite, and I'm like, okay, this shouldn't exist. This should not be in the game. And I'm saying that, like, you've seen me play like all the broken self-curse time chains headhunter builds. This was beyond everything else. Have you seen footage of like the Legion League full screen cyclone 5-way encounter, 50 headhunter buff spinning around? It was better than that, and it could kill bot. Like you could walk up to Cirrus to tank every single ability, like Stand in the Storm, AFK, Awakener 8, like all this. And it had that clear speed where you like, it was so fast you could barely control it. So yes, the nerf was 100% worth it.
No. The question was more so, does it feel like it was really that much better than the others? Like, were you clearing twice as fast? Were you clearing 10% faster?
I was clearing twice as fast. Yeah. Like the movement speed, like the only thing that the build lost now is like the headhunter, like the length of the headhunter buffs, but the tailwind and the avian aura scaling made you like literally so fast that it was faster than the lab runners who are like running the, like if you've seen those footages from the lab where he sprints through and like you think it's a sped up footage, it was even a little bit faster than that. Like you had over 600% movement speed at times. Like it was uncontrollable.
Okay, that's pretty reassuring to me, because I was like, I would have thought that it wouldn't have made that big of a difference to you, and the whole breaking the rule with like the no mid league nerfs, that was the thing that I didn't like the idea of so much. But
And the build
I
still
will
works,
gladly
and the
be wrong.
build's still really strong. It's just like, it's kind of like any other 2, 3, 4 plus 100 exalt build that you could make in the past, just a different one. Like you don't have to self-curse time chains necessarily if you don't want to. You don't have to have 4 inspired learnings in your tree next to a headhunter if you don't want to. The build just works, and it can kill bosses as well. And it's really tanky if you play it on a guardian. So
my question for you guys is, do you think the idea of nerfing it mid-league and having the people who are playing it invested a bunch of currency in it, a lot of those people are like, I'm not playing anymore. Like, this league is dead for me, right? Because I have put so much investment into getting this going. Do you think that was worth sacrificing those over the longer term effects that leaving it for the rest of the league might have had, like in terms of setting expectations wrong, affecting economy and things like that?
Given that fundamentally it was an interaction that wasn't meant to behave the way that it did, like it was essentially a bugged interaction, if I understand the change correctly. Like that's the sort of thing that I think is the mistake was in saying preemptively too early that they weren't going to be changing something. You know, they should have been more cautious with their early language if there was a mistake anywhere. I don't think the mistake was in changing it because it wasn't intended.
And that's what Bax apologized for in the post. I mean, the apology was a bit over the top, but I understand how some people who can't spend that much time playing and maybe they just had like a 1-2 week where they stay at home and like, all right, I'm gonna go grind a lot, and I'm gonna make this really cool build. I have 200 exalts saved up. Let's go buy the Solstice Visual for 35x. Oh, they just announced that it's getting nerfed, and now I just spent 35x on a 5x item. And times, you know, whatever else they bought. But the build itself still works. It's just there's a few people who made some really questionable financial decisions in game, right? When
in game, I think you mean with their dad's credit card.
In game, yeah, that's what I'm. Oh, right.
Yeah,
of course.
I think like,
oh boy,
I'm gonna just say it. I'm just gonna say it. I think most of the people who like proper freaked out with their limited schedules but can somehow afford all this mirrors of gear when it's peak hype. Be real, dude. You bought that shit on a website, like. I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
That's why you're angry, because you spent like $1,000 and your shit got killed the next day.
Didn't even cross my mind.
There's probably at least one, right?
You know there's someone.
For sure.
At least.
Oh god. Now that you mention it.
I do think it was pretty unfair, the amount of heat that Bex got. So if somehow, again, someone didn't know, it was pretty obvious early into the league that it was going to be dumb. People didn't realize how stupid it was going to be. Then when the early videos came in, a lot of people were like, I don't know if I will play this because it might get changed or something. And then there was a message she put out on Reddit saying, spoke to the team, we're fine, we're going to leave it to next league. I do like how some people act as if it was, she was like, no, Chris, I've got this. I have decided upon myself, this will not be changed. I'm not just relaying the information I'm given from the team. I
yeah, I mean,
personally
she's a
have
community
decided.
manager. She has nothing to do with game balance. Like she just communicates the team's messages, right? Or their
Well,
decisions to the community.
excuse you. Unbelievable. Bex has to do with everything. But that's true. It really sucks that a lot of the times, you know, it's like they've got like 200 employees or something, you know, like. But she's the one responsible for everything because she represents the company. It really does, and I think that's why, in general, that apology was so over the top. But it was kind of, I think, from their perspective, it was kind of necessary.
It's Bex
What
throwing
can I do?
herself on the grenade, you know.
Yeah, they're never gonna confirm anything like this again, like before.
Yes, that is definitely the lesson that will be taken away here.
To be fair, the first like videos and posts and stuff about the Purposeful Harbinger stacking stuff just made it kind of look like, oh, that's like a cute creative build. Like that's kind of my takeaway from those first videos I saw. It's like, oh, that looks, you know, that looks viable. That looks pretty good. It's the like seeing that and being like, oh, you know, what if we take this to the limit that happened like over the next week, which was basically over the next week after they made that kind of initial. So they were a bit quick to, I guess, make a public judgment on it before seeing people kind of start to min-max it a bit more.
Have you seen some of the other notable stacking stuff you can do? It doesn't quite reach the level of Purposeful Harbinger, which is probably good because that level is, as we've seen, too high. But you can do stuff with Zerker and some of the Warcry notables that you stack that gives you like 80% plus uptime on Berserk. And one of the other notables gives you move speed when you Warcry, so you can get like 200-300% move speed or something and just zoom. It looks really fun. That is the level where this sort of thing should be at, like the Warcry silliness, because that's god damn it. Still, sorry, I need to replace this chair. That's still the chair sponsors hit me up. That's still the level of like what Empy was talking about earlier. That's still like, you know, you're having this very focused build. You're doing a thing that's interesting, and you have an idea that you're building around. It's a nub that's, you know, got a build crystallizing around it without just trivializing the entire game.
Yeah.
The funniest part of that was you like taking 2 seconds thinking that you can play it off as if nothing happened, and then eventually you were like, yeah, no, I have to admit that something happened. That was good.
I moved recently. It was pretty far. I wasn't able to take my old chair with me. I need to get a new one. I have a not so great one at the moment.
Yeah.
And
The
one other
thing with
thing-
Purposeful Harbinger, the weirdest part is that it's pretty much exactly now what I think everybody expected it to be before the league.
yes.
I remember looking at it prior to the league, like when I was looking over the notables, I was like, oh, this is really good, especially like if you play in a party. And then like Embu started bringing up all of these fucking bizarro situations where you can make it like completely ridiculous, and I was just like, oh yeah, okay, it is going to be completely broken. That's true, and it is in that state, and people are upset that you know it's been nerfed, even though
Turns
it's
out if
like
you put
way
on
stronger.
like 1,000,000 mana reservation on your tree and your jewels, you can be your own aura bot, and then you just put on a 6-link anything and it'll work.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
we've had these builds like throughout PoE multiple times with self aura bonding pretty much, and they've been nerfed historically again and again and again. Which is why it was pretty surprising that they would enable that playstyle again, seeing how historically broken it has been. So I do think that I don't think anyone expected it to be this broken though, because I don't think anyone really knew. I mean, there might have been some, you know, 5-hit or 4-hit people out there, you know, kind of knowing that some of the buffs were categorized. So, because you have to know that the buff is internally tagged as an aura to understand how that works. And like nobody like we haven't played with that before. So how can we know?
So some other stuff got like caught in the crossfire, so to speak, with the nerf changes. So it is possible that there are folks out there who had built around similar interactions before, because the upgraded shield, for instance, the Waka Patua Patuna, the blue blop shield gives you increased effective auras on you, and that would scale these sorts of things. So it's certainly possible that there are folks out there who are aware of the interactions already.
Which would then just keep them to themselves, because you know, it's like the golden egg.
There's lots of very weird things like that. Like you can still snapshot with weapon swaps and there's lots of very weird backwards mechanics that just. I told Chris about this ages ago, and he didn't say anything about not saying it, so screw it. Do you remember a couple of... This is like maybe an incursion. I was trying to work out Thorfoss's setup, Raiz. I was talking about this Thorfoss guy who was like doing crazy
yeah.
racing stats. So the way that this guy had been like pushing ladder and stuff with trappers, this was like before the reworks and they're really bad, is if you've got 2 weapons, in your left weapon, you've got like fire trap and DPS links, and in the other weapon, on your right weapon, you've got fire trap, cluster trap, multi-trap. You weapon swap. In the weapon swap, you've got like cluster trap, multi-trap, and then damage on the others. As long as you swap between every throw, you keep the damage with all the plus traps. So it'd be like having like GMP, LMP, volley, but then weapon swapping and keeping the single target. There's lots of like really weird things. And
That's cool.
yeah, like I played the build a little bit last week. I fucked around with it. It's so before anyone was like, this sounds amazing. It's the most tedious thing. Like you bind weapons up to space when you're spamming. You're playing like a rhythm game. It's like Guitar
Oh, you
Hero.
script it for sure. People would just script
you could
it,
you could script it, but like, and it's also it works well with traps because with traps you've got the time that takes to fly through the air to like swap around. Whereas for the most other builds, it's a bit clunky. You could probably do something with like summoners or something with like a GMP staff swapping into like a single target staff or something.
See, but did he end up telling you that, or did you figure it out?
I half figured it out back then, but was like, that sounds way too crazy. He can't be doing that. And I made a video.
You didn't, and you want the credit. I get it. Okay. Yeah.
No, finish. I like, because he basically straight up told me like, there's some fun things you can do. Like this was like years ago. I thought there's no way he's actually doing that. Then I made my video last league saying we want a trap rework, and I got an email from dude like, hey, you always want to know how my build worked. This is actually how it works. We had like all these back and forth conversations. He was saying like old VODs of him doing like zero races and stuff. So yeah.
See, but that I feel like streamers do help with that. I remember I think it was Legacy League where you could essentially dupe the stones. Like if you did something, I can't quite remember, but you could have like a never-ending amount of them. And I remember hearing about that the first time. The guy literally like whispered me on Twitch, and I had like 5K viewers, and he's like, dude, don't tell anybody, but this is exactly how you dupe this. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, how do you think I'm not gonna literally, like, why are you even messaging me if you expect me to not fucking get rid of the shit that people are probably getting banned for? Like, this is really... I feel like that's happened a couple times over the years, so it's just pretty ridiculous.
Also, with the thing that I thought about, it won't be possible in PB2 because with the way the gem system works. So, like a lot of the weird things like that. It's interesting how with this new system they actually solve a lot of these weird backwards code things because the gem you can't
helicopter builds.
You can't do the weird weapon swapping stuff anymore. But yeah, I did find it especially interesting. I'm curious if you guys realize this as well. We're literally only week 3 into the league. I don't know if it's because Reddit's been so angry this league. It feels like we're way later. But this, like...
For me, it feels like we're way earlier. I don't know. It's because maybe it's because I've been enjoying the league so much. I feel like it's week 2 and it's the end of week 3. So I don't know.
It may be the rapidity of the changes as well. GGG has been very quick this league, comparatively to some previous ones, with pushing out fine-tune adjustments and stuff, and visual updates to the mechanic and all that.
But like, and the reason why I said that is like, because when they said, "Oh, we're not gonna make any changes," that was like week 1, and then we've had like half a week since the change. It's been like a full week since they announced it or something. They've been doing really well with just like the amount of patches we've had, and at this point, is there anything more you would like changed out the league? I'm curious.
Yes.
Um,
I'd unmute for that. Move the mirror closer. That's it. That's
oh yeah, that's still fucking
close
annoying.
to the portal.
Yeah.
Make its hitbox bigger. Am I the only one? Like
you do the dance.
Show it further on
please. Also, normalize splinter drops. I've been trying to like mess with various different maps. I don't know if it's something they want to change or not, but it feels really terrible to do almost all of the Delirium in a T16 and get like 3 splinters, and then do almost all of the Delirium in a T4 Tropical Island and get 22, because the Tropical Island happens to be a much more beneficial layout for getting deeper into the fog.
I wanted to talk about that because I'll go on.
I was gonna say it is weird. Like the splinter drop stuff is weird. I'm still getting sometimes lots of splinters. Some people say they're never getting them. And I wonder if it's like some playstyle differences of some people not treading on like the clusters and breaking the eggs and that sort of stuff, and other people doing that. I wonder if that sort of thing is having an impact on it. And now that it's dropping at the end, it is hard to tell like what things are contributing to it. Is it just like based on reward tiers, or is it actually based on kills you're getting during the encounters? It is weird.
Question
right now, the way it's working.
before we have this discussion: is it are we finding it consistently better or worse since the loot drops at the end?
Lower for me overall, but way more pleasing to use though. I much prefer the system.
Better, but only because. So I just started over in hardcore. I'm not in maps yet, but when I was in the softcore league, and like I was pushing her in the end game, I made a point to try a whole bunch of different maps with various layouts, and if you target only a certain few, then it's way better, and you get like I get so many splinters from Tropical Island or Promenade or what's another one, Strand, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it just feels so spiky and weird, and it feels spiky and weird with investment too, which makes me think that it may be tied to like rare and unique monster kill count. Because when they were actually dropping, I was seeing them drop way more often from rares and uniques, and like it might have to do with getting more boss spawns in a map, or getting nemesis on your map or something like that. I don't know. It was hard to do enough testing to actually figure it.
I'm pretty sure because I ran a ton before they changed it.
Mm-hmm.
The loot structure, at least. I definitely noticed that whenever you would kill the packs, like the actual Delirium packs and the rares, that's where all the splinters were. Like if you ignored them, you would get like nothing. But you would always have these like pops here and there whenever you would like zoom over a big splotch of spores or eggs. Especially near the end. It's especially near the end. They were like very rewarding. In the beginning, they gave barely nothing.
That's why something like Tropical Island seems to have such good drop rates, because you get super far into the depth meter. They were considering in one of the manifestos that they released actually showing a depth meter at some point, weren't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if they've said anything else on that.
Kind of nice.
I don't really, maybe I'm not getting it. I don't really see the point of it. I guess it'd be nice because for different maps you could see exactly what, like, numerically how far each map is. But from an actual gameplay point of view, you know how far ago you hit the mirror, and you know that the mobs are harder to kill now because you can fucking know how far your character walks. So I don't really see the point out of it, other than the fact like it's like when people count mobs with rampage for maps. It's nice knowing the exact number, but do we really need it?
One thing that I'm really curious about is whether or not there's a jump in depth when you go from like a doorway to another side of it, like Tropical Island, when you go from the first island to the middle section to the second island. That's what I think makes it so good, is there might be like a jump of 10 units in depth just because you clicked that door.
Yeah, because most of those are actually just further away from the mirror. For example, Tropical Island, like you mentioned, or there's more examples of this. Hang on, like I can't think of it right now, but basically you go down and then you can see on the map where you end up. So for example, if you play a party, if someone goes through a door, you see someone is already like ahead in the next area, and it's just further away from the portal. I think that just counts as distance taken from the portal, even though it's unpathable or it's not you doing the pathing. I think it might buff the loot, might buff the splinter drops at least in the end.
What's that volcano map that splits in two? You have to do both sides. Caldera, yeah. I noticed a lot with Caldera when you go through one of those portals, you feel like you jump ahead in depth a whole bunch. So it definitely feels like it jumps up, which would, which also that map sucks for that.
So it needs to be very
have to go
fast on the
backwards
second.
and then forward.
Yeah.
one of the maps that I didn't expect to be good, but which ended up being really strong and which made me think that the jumping forwards might be a thing that happens is Overgrown Shrine, where you have like all these floors that you're going through.
Yeah.
So I think each time you go down a floor, you're jumping away from the mirror a little further.
We found a mirror on that map last league.
Nice.
An actual mirror. Overgrown Shrine. It was a terrible layout though.
How many
On
mirrors?
the like the Delirium, I don't know, bar or percent or whatever we would like to see. I think it's pretty hard to gauge where you are in the Delirium. The only thing that really indicates it is how slow you kill. So I'm not really feeling I'm getting more delirious. It's just kind of suddenly things just start dying slower. It would be nice if there would be like a tint change, like a color change. Like, don't screw the visibility, but maybe like the edges could be like, I don't know, scarier or something. So you could like feel the progression of you going and becoming more delirious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
There'll be a nice like flow to the whole thing, so you don't just, oh, are they tanky now? I'm not sure. Am I killing them fast? Am I not? Do I have a flask? What's going on, right? Because that's kind of what you end up feeling when you go through it a lot of the time.
I mean, the way that most video games would have handled this, instead of covering everything in fog, it would have been like a little bit of fog on the edge, and then deeper fog, and then when you got to the end, it's now like, oh, now it's like my screen is foggy. Whereas instead, GG went like, fuck it, just fog everything, dude. But yeah.
Nice.
Or just have giant teeth everywhere.
Yeah, the
works
teeth
too.
is good. One like
As you get
really
deeper,
weird
more teeth.
conspiracy theory thing I've had since the people have been saying that maybe there's less dropping overall. Do you think it's possible that with the way they've changed it so it drops at the end, that it now acts kind of like a chest, so it's not being affected by quant as much, possibly? Because that would maybe explain why some people felt like they're getting way more, but now they're getting way less because all the quant stuff wasn't affecting it. Or is that just like bullshit?
I mean, don't think the quant affects the actual rewards that you get at the end. It affects everything else that you kill. And
yeah, so like would that change? Maybe
splinters is what.
Yeah, what I'm saying is splinters because they're not from mobs now. Maybe that because they're at the end, they're no longer being affected because nothing else is affected by quant.
I think they are still from mobs and they're being vacuumed up. And the reason why I think that is because there's a couple mechanics that don't work with the vacuuming system. Alva will still sometimes just drop splinters. And some certain unique monsters like sub-bosses and maps will just drop splinters, even though they're supposed to be vacuumed up. So I think there's a few edge cases where the whatever system they put in place to vacuum them up isn't working, and that kind of proves that they're still dropping.
What do like full simulacrums even sell for in Trade League?
90-ish, 80, 90.
I think it's the same on hardcore.
How much money do you get on average? I don't know. You probably run the most MP.
I haven't yet, but you get like a 2 to 3x, not as in exalted, but as in x return on your investment. If you include gem XP, it's more. It's really good gem XP, but it takes so long to run that it's, if you have a strong character that can do like 1, 2, 3 or like juicy red maps, it's like a big opportunity cost, like doing simulacrums. Like you could do 3 blighted maps in the same time and make probably just about the same. Yeah, it's
What was the fastest you could run it?
I haven't timed it, but it's like, I think it's at least 20 minutes. Can you even do that faster? Like they just keep spawning. It doesn't matter how fast you kill. It's not like Legion where it's like the same time and then, I should say there's no way to speed it up. You can get a little bit more loot. Like if you just AFK and you kill only the stuff that spawns like around you in like a corner, then you get like 2, maybe up to 3 tiers of the rewards, right? If you full try hard, you get to level 5, maybe 6 on like edge cases, but you cannot push it further. You cannot, even if you're insta spawn killing, you'll never get like more than 6. I think I haven't seen anyone with more than 6, like the number 6 in the corner.
I mean, it's very much the more controlled version of what the Legion endgame was. Timeless Domain of Conflict, that's what it is. Like, it's got this ceiling on how profitable and how crazy you can make it. But I think that's fine, because for the majority of players, I think it's probably much more profitable than what they're doing in their endgame.
Yep.
Given, like profit per hour or whatever.
Yeah, they kind of nailed this. Like, this is really good to do if you just like farm your own splinters, maybe even buy a few when you run it, if you're not like a super efficient red map juiced gamer. But it's not that good, so that those super efficient red map juice gamers will just like buy all of them and destroy the price, and then only run them like the Legion Headhunter shenanigans. So I think they nailed that. The simulacrums are nice.
I think it's also quite cool in the fact that because it is such a time investment thing, it appeals to a certain kind of player. Because there's a lot of people who were like getting sick of the concept having to roll maps and this, that, and the other. So if you wanted to, you just like
in there and you just blast for like 25-30 minutes. If you're like clearing slow, you're checking out some of the rare loot, maybe on the later stages, some rare items or whatever. Like you can spend a half an hour in there easy, and you don't have to roll maps or do anything. Downtime in between sextants, watchstones, influence, Xenomod, whatever else.
It gives me a surprisingly similar feel to Delve. Just one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much. Like there's not that little decision-making process that you have to go through every 5-6 minutes, however long it takes to clear a map. You just kill monsters. You're in a circle, you kill monsters, and they drop things.
And then you go
and you
down.
kill more of them.
And you go even further down. It's nice.
It goes burr.
I'm curious because like as we get more and more systems, as someone who runs just so many maps, do you think we're near the breaking point of there being too much busy work when it comes to our mapping, or could we go further, or like?
I mean, they said they want to reduce they called it the mechanics creep, right? When there's just so many things in maps, is that you enter and then there's an alva, and then you do the alva, and then you build a temple, and then you get some sulfite, and then there's a John mission. You go into the research and you open the betrayal board, and you're like, what's going on? I'm still in this map like half an hour later. But I think they said they want to keep it like under 10.
I didn't mean specifically in the leagues. I meant in the actual like rolling of the map. So like the sextants and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's getting a bit silly. Yeah, I think we're at the limit now, kind of. Like people thought Legion or was it not Legion? Legacy League was bad. You had like extra like 5 charges. Wow, now you like buy individual scarabs and like master missions and prophecies and every other stuff.
I don't know how you even do it. It's like whenever I even have to apply sextants, I'm just like, ugh.
Sometimes you just want to all can go. I can understand that. I did that a lot in Legion. I didn't want to bother. Like I did all this investment mapping like a lot, and then Legion I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna all can go. There's this Legion at Glacier, right at the entrance. I just alk the map, I just put in the Glacier, I run in and I kill the Legion, and it was so much fun. Just chill mapping, no trading for scarabs and stuff like that.
It's another reason why I love the Simulacrum, because instead of trading for prophecies or scarabs or sextants or any of those things, I just spend 90C on a Simulacrum, and then I get a big, taster's choice of all the different mapping tools that I might want.
How much time is spent just on the collecting of all of that bullshit?
In the Simulacrum?
No. Like when you come to let's run like 1,000 maps or 100. Like how much time does it actually take to collect all the fucking scarabs, all the bullshit?
That depends on how big bulk you want to run them, right? And how much like base resources you have to begin with. So like, if you've just done like 10 simulacrums, you might not have to buy anything. You just put in like you pick your 20 best scarabs. You have a whole bunch of sacrifice fragments because every single league mechanic is just shitting them out this league. So you just put in the extra 5 quant for each slot. And then prophecies is kind of whatever. Sextants, you might have to buy some awakened ones if you really want to like go for those big ones. But also like if you do the QDoc thing where you like preset up a full quad tab, right? With like all the scarabs and everything, then you don't have to do anything. Then you just sit down and spend like an hour or 2 maybe trading and setting it up, but then you have like a 10-hour mapping session where you don't have to do anything. You pull out the scarabs, you pull out the map, already pre-rolled, put it in, put on the master missions, and I'm go. And then you just blast like that for 10 hours.
This league is pretty easy to get your like your resources though, right? Like getting the sextants because everyone just
Easier
has
than it
bulk
was.
spare to
Okay.
sell.
Yeah. I think it's easier than it usually is.
Yeah.
Would
That was
we
one of
be
the better
sad if
things
they
in
got rid
the
of sextants?
What
sad.
would be
I like sextants.
what would be the goal there?
To
To
just try and
minimize
cut
that
back
clutter
on
that you're
some of
talking
the
about?
bullshit.
Just
Are
put them on the maps
sextants-
already, or what? Or
Are-
if we just lose out on all those mobs, I
Are
would be very
sextants
sad.
like are those the thing you want first on the chopping block before like I don't know prophecies or
I feel
The
like
prophecy
prophecies is
system
more
needs a
fringe.
big rework. Like
Prophecy
just
needs
doing
work,
that,
yeah.
like people, like it is profitable. It is literally profitable to buy 20,000 silver coins, sit in your hideout, block like 7 of the shitty prophecies, and you just spam the prophecies and just escape, enter, and put it in your inventory. And you do that for like it's profitable, but it's like the most mind-numbing shit. Like that system is
Gameplay.
so like outdated compared to like the newer mechanics that they added. Yeah.
Nah, the most mind-numbing shit is vendor re-rolling amulets with the gem for profit. That's the fucking big
Yo.
banger.
Okay, dude.
SSF crew over here. Yeah.
Save
Yep.
their scours. Yeah.
I mean, you make some good stuff, but it is pretty intense.
every time you do this, like this one guy, why don't you just use a scour?
Yeah. Why don't you just use chaos
Just
herbs?
scour
Like,
it,
dude,
bro.
I'm losing my mind here.
there's
Wait,
there's
earlier I
always
asked, how many mirrors did you find over the years?
I was only there at 1 when it dropped.
Huh.
We
Oh,
found
really?
our group in total found 2 since Delve. So in either I think it was Betrayal. We were mapping like for a few hours, and then I went out to get food. I went to Burger King to get some food, and they dropped the mirror while I was like out of the
Oh.
party. I came back like half an hour later. They had a mirror extra, and then last league we found one in a map while we were like unlocking our atlas, like in a red map. Just it
You don't
wasn't
feel
even
like
MF. The last mirror, it was killed by a stray skeleton or zombie, like half a screen away from most people. It wasn't like an MF because the MF carry killed it, you know, with like 100 quant on him. It was a fucking skeleton to kill a white mob, and he dropped him.
That's crazy. I would have guessed you'd found like 10 by now or something.
They're still
I don't know.
extremely fucking rare. It's insane how rare they are.
Yeah. Pretty bizarre.
Was that when you're quitting PoE when you finally get your mirror rise?
Yeah.
It
You
will
know,
sometime.
need my internet to work first. Yeah, people were talking about the Wilson memes when discussing if Delirium's a good league and whatnot. I'm just like, dude, how can you even like what the fuck? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I think from a balance perspective, like the first league and all that, I don't blame anyone for making the Volson comparison with the shield giving you like I don't know how many 1000% damage, Purposeful Harbinger buffing everything, like you know uniques and stuff
I
not
know.
working. There's like a lot of things that are broken. So
Did you actually see like what happened to Wilson when they released it? Like not even just
I
the
played
uptime
it.
and the
I
server
played it for
issue.
like
yeah,
a couple
but
100 hours.
yeah, okay. So then you did like you could dupe gold, you could dupe items,
yeah,
you could
okay,
dupe
on the
every single
duping, yeah,
resource in the
yeah.
game. Like it's uncomparably
The
bad.
jewel
Like it was
stacking thing was
completely ruined.
brilliant.
You could trade an item to your friend, and then you cancel the trade. You both leave the game, and you both had the item. Like it
Right.
was the most basic shit that you could think of.
Right.
Like how could we dupe items? Maybe if we give it to him, and they both have it, and that's how it worked. Like, and it took them a week to fix it because they had some scuffed server provider that could only patch once a week. Like how do you release something like this? Only be able to patch once a week. Like it blows my mind.
I
don't
still
know.
think
I
their
think-
best
Really
dupe
cool game.
was the fact that if you just unstack something, you got two
Yeah,
things
yeah.
of the same
Just
value.
double the-
That's like the easiest thing to accidentally dupe. Like,
No, come on. Diablo still hands down wins that shit though, where you
What was
would
those
you
clock?
educate me.
yeah, you literally
Oh,
would
the
roll
clock.
back your Windows clock and it would dupe the money. Like
Yeah.
how just like how does that even
Hacker man.
Total. Wilson has 5K players on Steam. Interesting. They went from the release
Like-
seeming to be 127, which is like a solid PoE league.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
To
Yeah, it's
to,
like
yeah,
previous
5K
record
now.
PoE league,
Mhm.
like except this one because it's everyone's
Yep.
at home because of the situation, of course. But like if their endgame shit, like their the town building stuff in Walson, I think that's really cool. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff there that they can like improve on and make use, and then they fix the obvious issues, and then they release like leagues or seasons or whatever they want to call them. I'm sure they'll come up with like a different name. It could be really cool, and then they hopefully time it so that it's like a month or two after a PoE league start, and they could see some more.
They accidentally had one of the coolest like action RPG item customization mechanics as well, where you could take a unique. It was a bug.
Oh, I've seen
You
your
could take a
video.
unique.
Right.
They fixed that. Or
Yeah.
that
You can
that
take
I
a
think
unique.
What was it?
stay in the game.
Yeah, for people who didn't play, you can take a unique and put it in this thing that upgrades it. It was intended to turn like rares into legendaries, which is just basically like a higher tier rare. Basically, it's the difference between a 4 prop and a 6 prop rare in Path of Exile. It was intended to upgrade from a 4 prop item to a 6 prop item, but you could take a unique item and put it in there as well, and it would upgrade it 2 additional props. So it would turn it into a rare item or like a legendary in that game and add additional properties, which meant that you could then craft it because it wasn't unique anymore. So you could use like the equivalent of annul orbs and exalted orbs and things like that on it, while still keeping the legendary properties. So you could like the unique properties. So you could remove negatives, you could remove drawbacks, add new things. It was pretty busted because you could make insane like 8 property items when you weren't supposed to be able to. But the way that you could like the idea of adding an extra randomized affix, like Path of Exile's tinkered with it a bit with things like synthesis and stuff like that, and a few of the like unvailable uniques and stuff like that. But it was they accidentally bugged themselves into a really like fun, engaging end game customization thing. I had a lot of fun like upgrading uniques and customizing them and crafting them to like enhance the character. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, you made a really good video on that.
Thank you.
It was also just very funny though, because it was like there was all this like Wilson, such a shit game. There's this one ray of hope. I'm having so much fun. Removed, and it's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. I'm like, Wilson. I think my video title was like Wilson's best mechanic, and it's getting removed. Bye. Yeah.
That's definitely a league in PoE at some point, right? Like customizable unique items. I don't know, an
Totally.
entire voided league that'd be.
Oh, right.
Put
No, you mean
souls
every
on
old
top of
unique?
it. You
God.
can combine like 2 uniques, and sometimes one of the mods would like transfer, like you would do with Awakener orbs, maybe. And then you would put like Soul Eater from Surface onto a Headhunt.
See, the only problem I think GGG like really respects the items, you know? They
Yeah.
really like they see PoE's itemization as like its biggest success, you know? Like that's the reason why PoE is big, because of itemization. So
Which is
I wonder.
fair.
I think it's
Like,
true.
to their credit.
Yeah,
I would say it is one of their biggest successes compared to most other action RPGs. It really like becomes clear when new action RPGs come out and the itemization is not up to snuff, and you're like, oh, you know, this is really, you can tell the difference between this and Path of Exile and the itemization, how it all comes together.
Did you see the items in Anthem? I think that was some of the best I've ever seen in terms of this
Oh,
game
no.
is shit.
What?
They had like stats which didn't make sense, but the best thing was because of the way the game scaled, you were better off using like white weapons from the start than your super end game grinded out shit, because of just all the scaling was completely balked. There was actually a similar thing in WoW for a while at the start of the most recent expansion, with the way that all the world scaling worked, where it's like I could use all my really cool gear, or I could drop my eye level by 30 and I'll kill mobs faster, and just weird shit. But yeah. Items are difficult.
That sort of scaling, when like things level scale and stuff like that, can be some of the worst mistakes you can make when making like an RPG, for like really just screwing player like sense of progression and sense of pride and accomplishment with your items, when it like literally doesn't mean anything and your lower level stuff's better and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, look at PoE. They had a lot of difficulty making that right as well, with like having having players downscale. It never feels good.
Downscale what?
Like to like you downscale the stats when you join other people's instances that were lower level than you.
Okay.
And it would instantly happen too. That's how Lily died,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In Delph.
Mhm.
Someone literally joined his party her party
Yeah.
to
It's
raid, and
just-
she just died because you downscaled the mobs. That fits.
It really seems odd to me though that you insist on having some mechanics like if you're not supposed to be there, you're not supposed to be there, right?
Mm.
It's like if things are supposed to kill you, you die, or if you're powerful, you blow everything up.
Well, that's how
I
it
get
works now.
why they want it, but it's still weird to me.
A lot of it just is one of those things where I think they realize that party play is kind of shit in this game, and they're like, what can we do
Yeah.
to try and make party play less shitty? And I wanted to ask you about that, like, as basically the only party
please.
player, you know.
Oh my god. The guild stash. If they added guild stash functionality, they would please so many people. Anyone who's played with a friend in a guild, you can set up roles, you can set up these tabs where only X person or X people can touch the items in there or take out stuff. Imagine if you had guild currency tab or guild fragment tab. Imagine if they were control clickable. Those two things alone would be insane quality of life for everyone who plays in a party or a guild and shares stuff like using the guild stash. And they would make money, right? I'm Garrett 100% would buy guild currency tabs and all that stuff. Like the tabs that they already have in your regular stash tab. I know it's coded differently. I'm sure they have to figure something out with that when multiple people have access. Maybe add like a cooldown on it where you can just like super spam or whatever. But just not having to like drag things in one by one and drag things up one by one is like a bit less improvement.
Like that sort of functionality would lead to so much more growth in those small little organic communities. Like my guild is essentially just a chat room, and the guild stash is used as a dumpster for
like, oh,
garbage
look at all
stuff.
these bricked items. I
Yeah,
tried to blow.
like, I think
always...
5 tabs in my guild stash are full of bitter dreams. I'm not even kidding. There's been some very dedicated people. And like that's fun. It's a fun meme, but I'd really like it if I could like. I've never experienced a game like I imagine. I think pretty much all of you guys. I don't know your gaming histories off the top of my head, but pretty much all you guys have played like World of Warcraft and done raids and done that sort of big group content. Like I've not played a game like that before, and it'd be really cool if there was even a fundamental means for that kind of thing in Path of Exile. You know, the content doesn't lend itself to it very well, but that doesn't mean we can't like give some tools to try and allow people to build it themselves.
Yeah, it's really weird that PoE does have a very strong sense of community, mostly due to the fact that you have like these outside sources that you go off of, because many games really failed with that. I mean, Warcraft 3 is currently failing with that. Actually, a lot of Blizzard titles, StarCraft, a lot of people, you didn't have those chat rooms and whatnot. You didn't have good ways of communicating.
Rooms on release at all, right? Like,
for like years, too. I mean, Diablo has like very heavy limitations when it comes to that too. I don't think you can do like, are there chat rooms now?
Diablo has personal loot, so it's like completely, well, first of all, you can't even trade. You can only trade to people who you farm the items with. So if you're rifting together, something drops, only you can see it. If you pick it up and drop it again, share it with your party member, but it's completely like personal loot. So Diablo has like almost none of this trade stuff that PoE has.
I think
on like on a social level, like can you communicate with people?
Yeah, there are chat rooms and there are communities. So there are communities are basically like guilds, but a bit less. Like it doesn't have a guild chat, but it has like a community leaderboard. You can see who's in the community. You can like check their profiles. You can like list it by Paragon level or whatever else, like classes, something, and then find people who might want to play with you, like group up like that. Communities are a decent addition too.
With the Battle.net stuff, I always just find it funny how long it took them to add the being able to go off like invisible feature, because they were like, "Hey guys, we're gonna have this new Battle.net system where everyone can see you."
Like,
it was like 2 years.
They announced that feature on like 4 years ago on a BlizzCon, and then it like just never came, and everyone was like, "So where's this thing that you guys talked about? Oh, it's coming soon." And it took them multiple years. I don't know how many years, but.
It was great whenever so I was really into raiding and stuff from WoW for a bit, but I also used to be really into Hearthstone, and I'd get my like guild master like, "Why are you playing Hearthstone right now?" I'm like, "Dude, fuck off. Like, I'm not in game. Go away." If you didn't know, people on your friends list could track you across any Blizzard game, and it was fucking awful. And when they originally said they wanted to use that system, they wanted to display everyone's like real name stuff as well. It took like a very long time for people to convince them, like, no, we don't want our real names like displayed everywhere. And
that was like a huge meme. The whole like no more anonymity on the internet. Like gotta hold people accountable. That was a big one. People don't even take that into consideration anymore. That wasn't even that long ago.
no,
It feels.
it really wasn't.
Yeah. I think
Um,
it was around the time of Diablo.
I wonder for the guild stuff in PoE whether there's some sort of like vicious cycle situation happening where because not many people use the guild features, GGD don't prioritize doing these upgrades for it. And like every time someone asks me on stream, like, Ziggy, do you have a guild? I want to join your guild. And it's like, nah, I don't do anything with guilds in Path of Exile because there's no support for it. It's pointless to even make a guild. It's going to be limited, like functionalities non-existent. Like, I don't do it.
I do feel like guilds are one of those things that they've consistently gotten feedback on, like, do something, do all these things, and
Do
you know,
literally
it's been a
anything.
lasting thing. Yeah, but I think that they've got like all these little things that they could do, or even bigger things, but it's one of those issues where they want to address like the entirety of it.
Yeah.
They don't want to like draw attention to it because then people are going to ask for more and they're like not able to provide. So they want to do it like all at once, like a lot of PoE stuff. And then 4 years go by and it's just like, okay, yeah, well.
Yeah, I think it's
working
always
on it
like
really hard.
barely under the line of like what they like want to do. Like they're always working on the next league. They're always working on PoE 2. They're always working on trying to fix the current league, like patches, whatever. And then there is like a few more things like QoL suggestions, and then there's guild stuff. And it's like probably too low on their priority list. Like it's not enough people making angry Reddit threads, right? But you can look, and I think I found like 6-year-old Reddit threads with the exact same suggestions, like just let us control click in guild stash, let us have guild logs in game. So now they had guild logs on the website. You can actually check who took out, but you can see how much. So if like there's a 10 stack of exalts, I think, and someone takes out like 2, it just says removes exalted orb, and you don't know like how. Not that that's an issue, but like these things should
What
be
do
like
you mean?
in the
That's
game.
totally
Like,
an issue. You can like rig people. You can like, oh, take out this one thing. It's gonna be a good meme, and then you take out the whole stack and you blame it on that guy. It's like, hell yeah, dude.
yeah.
That's sick. I didn't
so
know
good.
that.
No, it's a real shame that I've had the exact same thing, Ziggy, and it feels particularly bad. Like, as someone who runs private leagues every single league, I should be like the perfect person to like our guild stash, small community, everything. And exact same thing, like, Tarke, can I join your guild? I'm like, no, there's no fucking point. And it's just like it's genuinely like 4 people in my guild who's like someone we used to play with, and every now and again I'm like, this is still a thing.
Yeah, guilds at this point for the most part are just groups of friends, or it's just a chat room, like Octavian said. Like it's either streamer community chat room, and the streamers offline they continue to talk there. It's like a Discord server or whatever, just in game, so you don't have to tab out.
Only reason why I ever used it was for racing, where it would be just easier to invite people because you would only have like 4 people in a guild, so you could just right click it quickly. Pretty much it.
I do definitely think it's one of those things where there's lots of things they've said they would like to do with the stash, and they've always been a company of all or nothing changes. So eventually, with like PoE 2 and we get new stash functionality, like people always want like the auto sorting, like you can preset the frag go to this, the essence go to that tab, you just control click, it all goes. I'm sure when we start getting stuff like that, then maybe guild stash will get the control click.
I disagree with that 100%. I think auto sorting or any smart sorting shouldn't exist in PoE.
Oh, that's why.
Oh, really?
I'm curious, as you know, someone who does party play, and I don't know if you are the person rolling all the maps in your party, but when I did party play, I was. How do you feel about auto rolling? So like you fill your inventory with chisels, you fill a map tab, you fill a tab with maps, and you like Control Alt click a chisel onto the tab, and they all get chiseled.
Nope. I'm against all auto or mass stuff like this, because GGG has this design philosophy where the more you think around with these items and currencies and stuff, the more real they are in your brain, right, in your mind, like psychologically or whatever. I don't know. I'm sure there's a term for this, but the reason you have to like loot every individual little currency and then you take it up to your stash and then put it into the appropriate tab. If all of that was automated, then the loot becomes meaningless. So if you play Diablo 3, there is crafting materials, but you loot stuff and you go up to town, you press one button to auto salvage everything in your inventory, and it just becomes crafting materials. You don't even have to dump it into your stash. It literally just becomes part of the interface, and it's completely meaningless. Like it's exacerbated in Diablo 3 because there's no trading and you couldn't do anything else with those anyway. But in PoE, like this is like if once we start going down this route, like okay, let's control click and then it goes into the appropriate tab. Okay, but then why isn't there a button that you just press and then everything goes into the appropriate tab? Then why do we have auto rolling for a full tab of maps and then it just becomes like an automated, thing?
I think that argument though is also the slippery slope argument that okay, if we implement this naturally follows, can also stifle any kind of change that could improve the game.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, it's up to GDG to decide where they draw the line. They draw arbitrary lines all over the place. So I mean, some improvements, with the inventory system.
So how far
when
would
they
you
just
go?
say, this is where we go, and this is what you get, and we decided this.
So what do you think, Nugi? What would be that line? Would you have control click on a currency item if you're not on the currency tab? Should it just fly into your currency tab? If you control click a fragment when you're not in the fragment tab, should it fly into the fragment tab?
Yes.
Yeah.
Think
Well,
so?
it's.
Okay.
I think maybe I think we have an abundance of small things and loot. Way
Tiny
more than
shit. Remove
we-
all of them.
just-
Just delete everything. That's one thing.
So
One
let me finish my
big
point here.
I want to see where Nugi's line is, so I'm gonna ask.
So the thing is, there is a there's always like a cost benefit, right, for picking things up and putting into your inventory as well. Where because there are so many things to pick up and sort, then we kind of like we skimp down. So at the end of the day, it's about how many resources do you get out of the map as well. So I mean, you could start if you give us more things to sort with, we could maybe just have a little bit less dropping as well. And let's have more real things dropping that we want rather than all the small crap that just annoys us.
Okay, do you think if you have a quad tab that is a complete mess, do you think there should be a button auto sort by type, and then it should sort maps first, fragments next?
It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't need to be that
Okay,
advanced.
so
to
there's your
begin with.
line. There's your line.
You know,
Okay.
there can be a line to where it's just like it just arbitrarily creates space to like it just pops. Have you played Grim Dawn, for instance? They
Yeah.
have auto sorting, and I don't think it takes away anything from the game and the loot you drop. I don't feel like it's less. I mean,
I don't know. I didn't like Grim Dawn. I didn't.
Okay, I mean that's fair.
I shouldn't talk about it. I played like less than 30 hours probably. So.
But in terms of like feeling that what you pick up is meaningful, it's because it has some kind of value to it. I think Diablo is a perfect example of things just not being meaningful from the beginning. When you see your
problem is not being able to trade.
Piece of the same loot that it is literally just a scrap to you, even when you pick it up. I think that's
I feel
just
like
a
the Diablo
fundamental flaw.
comparisons.
But
The
that's for
Diablo
the most part.
comparisons are so
Sorry,
extreme.
Yeah, I think so.
It's because like that game, Alkaiser put it best. Like that game doesn't have items because everybody is using like all the same shit. So you don't like the excitement doesn't come from picking it up. It comes from like the upgrade. That's why you've got so many. So it's like very different from PoE. Because in PoE, even if you drop sometimes like a rare tier 1 item, especially if you're on SSF, it's like, oh, this has potential to be something good. There is like, you do get that little dose of like, this could be something. So it's not, I feel like auto sorting wouldn't be too bad. Okay,
I mean,
what about a pet
like if you were
that picks up portal scrolls? No.
Yes.
It's just called a portal gem.
like on the note of auto sorting and such. So PoE is pretty advanced in like all the things we can do and the way we we craft and everything. Like, essentially, you end up crafting your own inventory as well and how you want it to be. So you do feel like you have agency over how it actually like feeds in. So oh shit, I made this, so it feeds like this. This is my system. I have this and that. It's just when it becomes too efficient, we get too much currency as well. Because now we just pick up and then we kind of just vacuum it all in. And that's kind of where maybe it starts losing value because we vacuum up so much stuff to where things just need to drop less. So they, have more, you see that thing, I want that thing.
But then your problem is with the amount of stuff that drops, not with the way you pick them up. right? So you agree that we should
Mm.
be picking things up, but maybe they should be more consolidated. Them. Maybe you should have a little bit longer pickup radius, or maybe if you
Pickup
click a
radius would be
chromatic
great,
orb,
yeah.
all the chromatic orb are looted in a range. Diablo 3 actually did this, and I think
Mhm.
that part is actually a decent change. That's the only thing. That's how far I would go. Like I think
Right.
if you loot a type of currency, all the same types of currency within a little range should be looted. So if you have 7 splinters on the ground, but they drop individually because it's a Legion chest, if you click any of those splinters, maybe all the same splinters should be looted. Or if it's chromatic, alt, you click twice and you got all of those 6 things. Like that could work, I think. That would be an improvement. I would be fine with that personally.
I have one
It's
slam
such
dunk before
experience.
Raiz starts laughing.
Yep.
Empy, do you feel like the tame parts have more value because they're a fucking shitty item you got to throw around in your stash?
Wait, what is the
The
question?
Oregon.
The little metamorph organs, fucking hearts in the eyes, and these shitty pieces of crap.
I mean, there's one that drops per map. Like it's not right. It just drops from the boss.
But do you
at
feel
the
like they
end
have
from the
more
metamorph.
value than the beasts? Because the beasts are automatically
Than
put in
the
the thing.
beasts. Oh yeah, definitely. I don't even think about the beasts. I just realized it like 2 months into the league that I haven't touched any of the beasts, and then I just go and do something. Like yeah. And then whenever you sort out like a quad stab or multiple quad tabs, you're like, oh shit, I have this organ. Oh, I can make a metamorph, and you go and do it. Beasts, I don't even think about. I like the Einhorn Alliance, but that's
So would you want to go backwards with the
Unbelievable.
beasts, where it's like not you get like 4 every map, but you maybe just got like 1 every time you did a 9-half?
I mean, if you're using Einhorn missions, then you're getting a lot, right?
Yeah.
And you get all types of missions. So if I like that you can stack up different types of content. I think that's one of the best changes they made in like the last year is consolidating the past league mechanics and allowing you to run a big chunk of them at any one time if you want. Like if you mapped for a few days and you haven't done any master missions, you'll have a few. You can build multiple temples. You can make a bunch of beasts. You can delve. You can make big progress in your betrayal board or whatever. Like I think the master mission changes are really, really good for QoL.
Master mission device stuff. Biggest change to PoE ever. Oh my god.
Yeah, having to run to the master in your hideout. And then...
That was the dumbest thing ever.
And then what people like you, Doug, would do is they have 5 hideouts that are all the same, but their main NPC at the map device would be a different master. And instead of like moving the masters around, he would just swap his hideout and where June is there, and then the next time Nico is there. Oh my god.
Q-Dog's on another level, I swear. That's
Yeah.
something else.
I like that.
You mean walking to the other side of your
Hideout is
hideout past your
lava, man.
waypoint? Like walking to the other side of the hideout didn't give you a sense of additional value for your Nico mission? No?
It's a cost. It's supposed to be a cost, you know? It's like the going to the vendor to heal and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Did I tell you guys the theme park story? Did I mention that on the last Baeclast?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. There was this guy who, after that got announced in my chat, went on this massive tirade for like an hour that they are turning PoE into a theme park because we can use our master missions from the map device, and that GGG is turning PoE into Warframe, and it's horrible, and that this is just the start of the end, and it's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to PoE, and anyone who's excited about master missions being on the map device is the worst person, and it's just a theme park game, and nothing matters anymore.
I mean, if it was turning into Warframe, they'd have like a decent guild system.
Whoa. God damn.
Maybe it was just the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Like this guy was right on the edge, and that was just the final push he needed to blow up.
No, I mean, I think there's like a small point maybe in there. You know, you do want to feel like you are somehow engaging with the master, right? It's not just like another portal to a No, but
if you're into the lore, like I don't know, do you care
okay,
that you like
follow me here. So I love the change for the masters and the way they do it. And so it would be like, I don't know if all the masters have this, but like you can have like June, for instance, you still have to go to her, right? To spawn the portals to go on the mission. So it's not like there is this it's not like there's this you just go in there and you just click the thing. There is still the interaction with June. I think that's like but that's what he's probably afraid of losing. But I mean, we can see that that's not the case. I mean, if they just draw the line there to where, well, whenever you're just running all these endless missions, it should be easy.
Can you not do that still? Let me walk up to Nico. You can
you can still use them.
You
You can still use them for their endless
all the
missions
way.
if
If
you
you want to hear the master's voice line every time, just go ahead.
I mean, and also there's the fact that I guess every single NPC still has a purpose because even if you only use the map device, you still have to talk to Alva and Jun to like unveil items or do your temples. You still need to go to the mine to do your delve missions. You need to go to the menagerie to do your Einhar shit. It was just great for me because I just got to get rid of all these fucking homeless dickheads who'd been like camping out in my hideout. I just got to tell them to fuck off. That was like one of the best things.
Next on the list is kicking Kirak out, right?
I said this last league, and you're like, no, he's fun. Fuck Kirak. He serves no purpose. He's just a random
I like his voice
dude
lines.
that I need to know. He's a dude you need to talk to before you talk to Zana to do like.
Yeah,
if you just spoke to him, it would be fine.
Like Kirak should open it. Like Kirak should open the citadels.
It's like Kirak. Have you found it? Yes. Now I'm gonna tell you to tell Zana where to. It's like.
I'm not talking to her right now.
Yeah.
Whenever my Atlas thing is like done, and it just says like talk to Kirak, and I'm like, why? just to tell him about my day. Like, hey, I found this thing. Okay, now talk to Zana to actually like engage with it.
Empy, can you tell Zana that I don't appreciate the fact that she didn't go on a date with me, so now I'm gonna have to like cut myself to Sirius.
I'm like the middleman between Kirak and Zana, trying to make something happen.
Kirak's just a really nice guy.
Fuck Kirak, dude.
Long day.
Long day. I wish I could sell things to Kirak because he has my favorite voice lines of the hideout NPCs. So
such a useless episode.
Like I want to hear long day every time I go to sell stuff.
Yeah, he would actually be my go-to seller for a while, probably if he could.
I wonder how many people's vendor was Einhard, and then after ExileCon, he's no longer.
I have to admit, I like Bestiary a lot less after ExileCon.
Oh no!
Wow.
It was really cool for the first like minute or two, and then it went. It was really long.
Yeah,
I mean, even that long.
It was pretty long.
Einhar in game as well, because Einhar is the same. Like, have you noticed whenever the Delirium starts and Einhar pops up, he will immediately just interrupt and start talking. He's very.
He's like, I know this like dark and mysterious voice is talking to you, but we gotta get some beast, friend. Let's go.
Fuck that guy. Yeah, but pretty classic Einhard. I don't know. I thought it worked pretty good.
I mean, what could have been good maybe for ExileCon 2, instead of doing Einhar, instead if they just get the entire syndicate board to just shout over one another for 20 minutes. I think that'd be good.
Make you feel like you're in the middle of a mission.
God, that part of the game cracks me up so hard.
It's so annoying because the dialogue is so good in this game, and I love the strange voice. I always have the dialogue enabled. Have you had that thing where like you try and I know a lot of you do like pre-record your content. But if I'm doing a video live, and it's like, oh, let me just run this map real quick to show off my build, and I'll be in the middle of talking, and I have to stop fucking talking to let these twats shout at each other. It's like, okay, I can talk now. Okay, we can talk. Yeah.
Oi, oi.
I actually like always cut myself every time with this because I really like the in-game like voices. So I always play with like some sound and then like really high voice, and then I'm like explaining something to chat, and then I kill 4 betrayal dudes, and they just like start mic spamming over.
Time for a spot more wheeling and dealing.
It's great when you have enough damage that their spawn line gets interrupted by their dying line.
Yeah. I feel so bad for Nick. Nick does such a good job writing everything, and it's just like, and it's fucked. I'm really curious to see what they're gonna do with, because they have all the like great story voice lines. What they're gonna do if this goes core, because it's like you probably only see it in maps, so all that content just gets thrown away. I don't know. But speaking of,
the endgame like voice line stuff is just kind of generalized insanity stuff. It's kind of like I said, they were playing into different like types of insanity with the endgame stuff, but the leveling stuff after you kicks in right as soon as you kill innocents, and has like zone specific voice lines for every single zone
Yeah.
after that point. And some of that like lore is actually like quite interesting on like a lore expanding point. Like he goes into backgrounds of the different gods and what happened to them and how he played a role in like various insanities of the gods. That's like, damn, there's quite a lot there to
There's
lose.
not a way currently to listen to like all the Conqueror's journals on Zana or Kirak, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Because I remember, because they added the journals like halfway through last league or something, or like a couple of weeks into last league. And I wanted to listen to it, and I was like, how can I find it? I even like went on YouTube, and like no one had uploaded a video of it. And
Really
it
good,
turned
too.
out like Noodle had a Google Doc or something. So it's like when I'm having to like back wheel trade with other streamers to listen to voice lines, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, it's kind of consistent with the rest of PoE, right? You always have to go to like a third-party program
yeah.
or mini something, some source to find stuff out.
Mm,
Same with the lore, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. Getting back into like the Delirium side of things, so I wanted to specifically talk about the Delirium orb stuff, since you've kind of done a bit of orbing. Before you get into like it's OP, it's lit, it's whatever, just as like a mechanic, how do you like it compared to like the sextant stuff we were talking about before being kind of tedious?
I like it. I like that there is so if you're fully juicing maps, right, you want to vol them, right? But you can't put orbs on your map after you vol them. So if you're running a particular type of map, you want to orb it first and then vol it. But then when you vol it, it can break into a different map. So I like that aspect, that you can like kind of lose out on it, even if you like trying to go full ham. I think it's okay. It's easier than sextants. You don't reroll it. You put the orb that you want. You put the number of orbs that you want. You don't have to put them on. The map will still have Delirium, right? If you don't put an orb, but then you have to keep up with the fog. It's nice that if you put one orb on, then you have permanent fog, and you don't have to keep up with anything. I think it's a good mechanic.
One thing I like about it myself is it gives you a. It's very easy to measure the amount of challenge you're putting on yourself. So like you can go up from like 20, and then you do that for a little while. Oh, now we're scaling up to 40, now to 60. It can be very difficult in PoE sometimes going into a T16 map and running some easy rolls, and it's like the easiest map or easiest map ever. And then the next map is just like hell on earth, right? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
Whereas
It's
like
very
this
scalable.
is, yeah, I really enjoy that part.
Do we think we need more of that when it comes to like Atlas tiers and stuff? Because you can kind of like cheese like tier 11, 17s and all that stuff. Sorry, 17, 18, 19 with like sextants. But do we want just more actual, just base accessible levels of challenge that we can add to the game, like 20%, 40%, 60%?
So what you mean, like more granular progression
Yeah.
through the current tiers of maps?
Yeah.
So like essentially, not literally this, but something that could be a tier 11.5 in terms of challenge. Like squeeze things into the current system.
I think 16 tiers is fine. It's nice to have something beyond that though. So it's nice because getting to T16, even for someone who is like maybe play the league already and then like make like a decent build that is not, I don't know, conversion trap, then you will eventually get to T16 maps, and then that's about it. Once you killed your Cyrus or Shaper or whatever your big thing is, but now you can even scale it further. Like before that, we only had Delve to like challenge yourself and go deeper. But with this stuff, like my character can probably barely run like 5 orb T16 maps. Like it's actually so crazy. So there's definitely like it's always good to have stuff to improve your character for, like a reason to min max, right? A reason to improve your character past just T16, like all can go.
But
I think as a comparison to like just like Volson as well. I think one of the reasons why it fell off a cliff is like we had so much power, and at the upper end, it felt like there was nothing left to do. Like I think that's why the game like just fell off a cliff as well for so many people, and it just ended.
That's one of the reasons why it's going to be so difficult for any other ARPG to try and unseat Path of Exile, or even clamber up to a similar position as it, because Path of Exile has, like, we have these Delirium orbs that were just added, but those interact beautifully with like prophecies or Double Beyond or Sextants or all that sort of thing to make a really challenging experience. Like you could go to a T19 with Triple Beyond and prophecies in there.
Yeah.
Like you have this backlog of other mechanics that can be used to augment whatever you're designing now. And so anything else is going to be playing catch up to that in terms of the end game.
I think one thing I hope that they are mindful of is to keep some of the experience separate from each other, so it just doesn't become an all-in every time. Like, let's say they introduced a new mechanic, a la this thing. I'm not sure if I would like it to be Delirium plus that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you either pick one or the other.
Some side grade content.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at something like Simulacrum or Blighted Maps or, Delve, if you're deep enough in your Delve. Those are all side grade end game content.
Yeah.
A Blighted T16 is not on the same tier as 100% Delirious regular T16 in terms of challenge, but it's comparable for most players. Most players won't be reaching 100% Delirious T16s. So I think I agree with you on that point, but I would say that they've done a good job. Like,
yeah, I think so.
There's enough side grade content that you can keep yourself pretty variably entertained in endgame Path of Exile.
True.
What I was gonna ask
wonder if
is,
they're gonna...
oh, go on.
No, you go ask.
No, because mine goes into a different thing. So go on.
Mine too. I was gonna talk about, ask what do you guys think would be I'm putting you on the spot, because a lot of the times you feel like you're pretty much either mapping, which kind of engulfs all of that shit that we had in the past that kind of like mixes together. And then the other time, really, when I'm feeling like I'm not mapping, but I'm still playing PoE, not just sitting in my hideout, it is delving. Like it's a very separate experience for me. It doesn't bleed over as much. So I wonder if you have any ideas for like another third type of content.
So you enjoy the going from one to the other experience?
Memory mapping. I want it back.
Memory mapping. Yeah, but
I want it back.
Mapping, then.
Yeah.
It was different enough.
That's what I like about Blighted Maps, Simulacrum, and Synthesis, is they do feel like a different type of content that feels different to maps.
Same with Cortex, kind of. Well, Cortex also kind of feels like a map, but there is like an actual like longer boss fight in the end. Yeah. It's nice. Like I've had a tab where I just put like some nice maps, and I find myself like putting these Elder Guardians there, Shaper Guardians, Beachhead map, Simulacrum, Cortex, or the lesser Cortexes. I don't know what they're called, Memory Vaults or Nexus, like not the actual big boss fight Cortex, but the smaller ones. There's plenty of these. Yeah, and if you just save these, like every time it drops, you just put them aside. Like after a few days, you have like a good few of these like different, very different or special kind of map that you can run, or a chunk of them. It's pretty nice.
Ooh, now that I think about it, something that doesn't feel like that for me is Blighted Maps. It is kind of like, there's not that as much of it as there is delving and mapping, but Blighted Maps do feel different for me.
Yeah.
Although it drops like content from literally everything, so I don't know how much I like that.
I think we've reached a crescendo with that problem. We addressed it a little bit in the last podcast, so I won't dwell on it too much, but I think this league is a little bit of a farce in regards to how many different mechanics just drop a little bit of everything, and it feels like everything is diluted to the point where nothing really feels as special as it otherwise might. Like Empy mentioned sack frags. Sack frags are the like most comical example of it. I think I have not done vol side zones outside of ones in maps occasionally, and sometimes I even skip those. And I have like 70 at Ziri sets. Like maybe two or three of those sets came from vol side zones, which is where they're supposed to come from.
Let me give you an example of how ridiculous this is even in group that doesn't really scale this. So we used to have to buy sack frags to sustain our like mapping adventures, right? In these juicy maps, we always use 2 scarabs and 2 fragments, and we used to have to buy them. this league, every day or every other day, we sold multiple, like tens of inventories of sec fragments to the point where I just removed them from the filter because
I
only
have
the
a
map host
full-
can pick it up. I can go into another thing about that.
I have a full fucking stash tab of incubators on softcore and I've been running them every time I can.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm done with incubators, I cover myself in eggs again, and I can't burn through them. It's impossible. And they're like not from Legion. They're almost exclusively from the simulacrums and stuff that I've been running.
Before we
I don't
go
know.
on to the next tangent, I think it's worth mentioning on that a couple of Baeclast games we had devs on. I said something about how we're gonna get more Legion from the next league. I'm like, no, that's never gonna happen. And it's like, I like how many blighted maps we get from Blight compared to all this other bullshit, and I can't wait until we get all the Delirium orbs from whatever the next fucking league mechanic is, you know. So
It just gets handed off.
yeah.
From wherever it came from to the next league mechanic. The reward gets handed off.
That's what Kira can do. You just talk to him. He's just like, here's a bunch of shit. And there you go, dude.
Finally
Fixed.
found the use for Kirak. Okay, so before we go into another tangent, party play, QoL. Only the map host can pick up maps, right? That makes sense. Cool. The person who opens the map should pick up the next ones because he'll probably roll them or he'll hand them off to someone else to run, whatever. Only the map host can pick up sacrifice fragments. Why? Stop.
Well, it
This is really
boils down-
bad.
I mean, that boils down to how they're intended to be
Same
you
with
know,
scarabs. Yeah,
Yeah.
same with
6 years
scarabs.
ago.
Which
obtained.
still kind of makes sense, but when you can put like a second
Yeah.
or like when literally the map alone, even if you don't really juice it up, you can have a base Delirium scarab reward, right? And it drops like almost more scarabs that the inventory of the person who can pick them up whole total
Wow.
because he's already
I mean-
looting maps and
Wait,
nothing
how
else.
many scarabs actually
Cer-
drops in the big maps?
Okay, so in the
Certain-
juicy maps,
ahead.
we got to tier 12 or sometimes 13 was the highest we've
Right.
ever gotten to the tier. So like imagine scarabs dropping, like multiple scarabs dropping 12 times every map.
Does
Plus
it
the maps.
does it
And
scale?
only one person can-
Wait, I thought you meant you got to 12
players as well? Like how many
Yes,
players?
12
Oh
tiers
my.
of rewards. Yeah. But that is, that is a burial chambers with multiple legions, multiple harbingers, 200% plus quant, 90 plus pack size. That's those sort of maps.
Jesus.
Like it's the scaling is still like it's called logarithmic or whatever. I don't know math, but like it goes really really slow once you get like past the 6, 7, 8.
right,
Like it slows down significantly to the point where we got to 12, like 10 to
12
12
is the
for the
same.
most part, but we've only gotten to 11 or 13 once, and that was like fully juiced, like alvas, like 3 alvas, 2 legions, multiple breaches. Like when you just kill, I don't know, 5,000 mobs per map or more, possibly. That's when you get there. But the inventory situation, like our map host had to flip the scarabs, like click the scarabs because he's full, right? And then it becomes lootable for everyone else. I think the mapping items that are not specifically maps should be lootable by other party members.
I mean,
think
we
if
have
anything-
options. Like we have like
Yes.
So
But at least
if you
have
have
options
free
to-
for all, free for all should be free for all. Like
Exactly. Yep.
Sounds like a bad filter sort of situation. Just get a better filter, dude.
Just get a better
I want to
filter.
reply to one thing quickly in chat because I feel like this is a great point of people missing the point. The funny thing is that everyone cried about that they felt forced to do all the different mechanics. They just want to do the thing they enjoyed. Now all special league items drop everywhere and people whine about them dropping too much. This pendulum just goes back and forth. It isn't the case that we're complaining because of that. The issue is because stuff drops from everywhere, the original source is devalued. So now doing the original source isn't the best way of getting the content. For example, sack frags. The best of getting sack frags isn't let me go farm side areas. It's just play the game and you'll just get shit thrown at you.
You just
Same
get
with like
everything.
breach stones. If you're playing SSF, you'll get more breach stones dropping whole than you'll get from collecting all the little
Right.
splinters, and that's just
Yeah.
wrong. You know.
Yeah. I mean, he called it a pendulum, right? Which means there is a middle way somewhere, like that satisfies most people.
I mean, he's also saying we're flip flopping. I mean, I can tell you from like me personally, I don't think being on this podcast I've ever said that I enjoyed having them drop from non-specific league stuff. I've always been on the fence. for that. It's
I
like,
don't think any of us have said, you know what I really want? Access to more incursion items, not from incursion. Like, we've never been like, I want
Right.
more of this from other things.
It is, but it's a pattern. Like they've been doing it over and over.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really should ask at some point. It's weird that I
It's
don't
an easy way
think
to
I've ever-
I've
diversify
asked them
loot.
many times, and they keep saying they don't want to. They don't want to like. It comes down to like using assets, right? They always
Yeah.
want to feel like they want to like provide all players with all the content they've created, and so since not everyone has the time to go into incursion and try out that experience versus the other, they just here's a bit of everything.
I mean,
those
last
guys.
time we asked about it, I can't remember if it was specifically Neon who said this on the last podcast, or it might have been a previous one. So sorry if I'm confusing the devs. But we've definitely had the answer back that it's just a case of when you're designing a league and you're like, how can we make this just a little bit extra spice?
Right.
It's just an easy thing, just like, oh, people like Delve, let's add some Delve scarabs on there. But then because of scarabs affects everything, you just all the scarabs are on there. Oh, incubators are fun. We'll just add a little bit of incubators, and then
That's good though.
A
Or
little bit.
I think scarabs should be widely accessible.
Yeah.
I think they're really fun. They are basically what leaves
Mhm.
them. Like we're supposed to be, and now they're in the game, and now
Oh, yeah.
you can tailor your mapping so much with scarabs. I think it's really good that they're like widely accessible.
Yeah, I would actually agree on that.
I mean, scarabs also kind of makes sense. Like, scarabs should really just be like a drop at this point because of the purpose they have is they're meant to be like an everything thing. Whereas incursion is very much this came from the Temple of Azawatl. So this dude has it in his pocket apparently. Or, seems a bit odd.
Talismans, prophecies need to be probably updated a little bit.
Yeah. I
got
will
that
say
unique
actually,
talisman. I got really sad dropping it. It's like, oh, I can't anoint this thing. Aw.
Yeah.
I actually got a little bit upset when they nerfed the amount that Talisman's reward happened because they're very easy to vendor for alterations. I was like, no, less alterations. You need to do these things. I remember Carve said the exact same thing. Like, if you play enough S's, I feel like, oh, alteration. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of alterations quickly, do you want to hear the most evil idea for a div card ever? Because I keep saying I was going to make an alteration div card, and someone said, Tarke, your div card should be called Not Quite, and it redeems for 1 under a complete currency. So it could be 4 wisdom scraps, it could be 19 alt shards, or it could be like 19th mirror splinters.
Mirror shards.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Sounds
It's
like
such
the
a Kiwi
SF
thing.
dream.
Yeah.
Emperor's not quite luck. Yeah. Emperor's unluck. Emperor's misfortune, actually. That works.
Oh.
I really like the idea of
That
that.
is a really good idea. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that if I say it here, someone else will make it. That's my new thing now, is I say div card ideas, hoping other people can make it, so I get to keep my div card. It's one of those weird things, like, I've been sat with this div card creation for, like, 2 years now, and every time I go to make it, I'm like, oh, but what if they completely change the game? They won't do that. Then they, like, do the new gem system, and I'm afraid to, like, touch anything. Someone needs to make a div card for the Maloney quiver. That fucking quiver, dude. It only drops from random mobs in synthesis.
There's someone on this podcast who could do that.
I know, but someone who's not me, because the thing, okay, if I use my div card for that quiver, it'll get nerfed, and then it's like you wasted your div card.
It's a socket quiver, right?
Yeah, it's the only ornate quiver. So it's really good for automation on bow builds, but also like a lot of like juicers use it in weapon swap to level more gems because it's an extra 3 sockets, so you can like level more powers and shit. Yeah.
Did they clarify why they did that with a bunch of stuff? They did that with the Zoloto flask too, and a bunch of other stuff. Like, why do they
Did what?
items away, like from the players? Like, where it can only drop from legions now. The Zoloto flask.
Yeah, that was retroactively turned into a Legion specific unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something they've done again since then that I can recall, but like it was likely just they wanted some league specific uniques. There were some very underused uniques. They saw an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're GGG
I
So
is
now
like
very
the
good
I like
at
the league
doing
specific
things.
uniques
Oh,
because it
sorry.
gives me something to. I mean, I feel like it really gives you something to aim for, right? You'll all in on a certain mechanic again and again in the hopes of getting it. That's very like that's really the definition of a chase unique. Even like in a smaller term, it might not be the size of Headhunter, but I mean as a small goal. I
I
really,
really
like
wonder
that.
if people consider it that way though. Like in the past, I could totally see that because you would spend a lot more time on specific content. But now, like, do you really not do a Legion when you see it? Like, you'd have to really like it or not like
Well,
it. And if you,
It's
whether
not
you
that
do
you
or not,
don't
like, it
do it.
wouldn't.
It's more that you go out of your way to find all sources of doing it.
yes, like you start doing betrayals to put Vegan in there on the leader spot again and again and again. You know, you'd really try and like whenever you see the scarab thing pop up, you go just a little bit harder to get that bar to fill to get a higher chance of getting the scarab, so you can get into the Legion. At least I've been doing that in this league myself because I really want the Asnet's gloves, right? It
Oh,
really
I
fit.
think.
So
Yeah, when it comes to betrayal, I think that's one of its strongest elements.
Mm.
Again, at least for like an SSF perspective.
Like in
Well,
my
I guess it affects
private
everybody
league,
equally.
to give
be
you an
honest.
example of that, like a lot of people were just saving all of their Einhar missions, red maps, so they could like pull them together to try and get the beasts and stuff. So, you know, it happens.
I'm out of beast on this, Zeph. I know it's like I'm missing the crab helmet. I really want the crab helmet. Oh,
It's impossible on SSF. I remember trying to
no,
get
I'm getting
Spider
it. I'm
Aspect.
telling you, I'm getting it. I have the chest and the boots.
Yeah, maybe next league. Yeah.
What?
Wait, you found 2 beasts or 2 items?
No, I got 3 beasts. I don't think you
Three.
realize how
Really?
many beasts I've run.
Probably all of
It's
it.
it's at least 3 at this point.
I have like 2 cats as well and 3 avian or no, a couple avians. I haven't found the spider yet.
Last league, I was like, oh man, maybe I should get the aspect of the spider. That would be really cool for my build because it's slow and stuff. And I check how many missions I have. I had like 170 or something. I'm like, oh, this isn't too bad. Ran all of them, never got it. It's like, dog, come on, man. It's pretty bad.
I'm curious, would you ever go to SSF MP for like a league? Or like the end of a league or something?
Nope.
Fair enough.
I remember
I don't
Empy practicing racing. It was really good. It's like, hey, Empy, having fun? Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never say never, right? Like maybe, sure, maybe in a few years. Like you guys have been playing for so long. Some of you, like Nugi, Ziggy, right? Most of you have been playing for like years longer than me. So I'm still, very much enjoying trade leagues and doing stupid stuff there. Maybe in a year or 2 or 3, I'd feel different. Right now, I don't feel like
I
playing.
feel like you're a little bit more like a juicer.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, like, you do more party play than anyone else, so it's like, hey, would you ever play in solo self-fund where you can't do the one thing you do the most of,
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that. It's like after, like I only do, like people know me recently, especially the last few leagues for party play, but we generally only party play for 1 week, and then I play for another month alone, which is of course still in the trade league, but I after that it's solo.
Well, the thing is, you also have like a lot more. You have like a lot healthier relationship with the game, I guess. Because like when you just get bored, you play other games and you don't like go into this rampage that a lot of people.
I mean, that's just me
that.
being lucky position that I'm in, right? That people, I live in a poor country, and that the amount of viewership and stuff that I get is enough for me to not have to worry about always streaming PoE, which means I can only I will only play as long as I'm like really enjoying it, and then when I stop enjoying it, I stop playing it and I come back next league, or even skip a league. Although that only happened once in 3 years, so
I always
they always bring out new stuff that makes it fun. So.
Sorry, I was gonna say I always really enjoy watching your Sea of Thieves streams because it's just people telling you that you shouldn't be enjoying yourself. Why are you doing this,
What am I?
Empy?
There's nothing to do in this game. I'm like, I know.
How
I've
could
been
you
doing
do this
nothing
to
for
us?
1,000+ hours.
How dare you have so much fun?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, this is like pretty off topic, but you've made it on topic, so well done. What was your reaction to the Diablo 4 stuff? Because I don't think I've ever directly asked you.
I think the game looks cool, and based on like talking to the people who actually played it there, like Quinn and a few more people, it feels really smooth, which is like the most important thing for me in an ARPG. Like when in Diablo 3 you go in town and you move your mouse around your character while holding it down, it spins almost as fast as you can humanly move your mouse, and that's really, really important to me in an ARPG. In PoE feels way clunkier than that. And if Diablo 4 feels like at least as smooth as if Diablo 4 feels as smooth as Diablo 3 was, then you know, it should be, at least, even if it's completely blind and you're just building attack and strength and main stat, it should be a couple of 100 hours of good fun still. And then it's back to PoE. Because PoE will always come out with new content. Diablo, we'll see, right? There's not much point to theorize too much about like what is going to be like. We'll all play it, we'll all try it, and then maybe it lasts for 100 hours, maybe 1,000, maybe a couple of thousands if they keep updating it. But until we know that that's their plan, we can't know much.
You'll be happy to know on the mouse cursor thing, PoE 2, the character moves really smooth. Like, that was
Hell
one of
yeah.
the best things. You're like, oh, it's not, like,
That's awesome.
stuttering, you know?
How long did you play Diablo being aware of PoE before like really getting into it? Because you kind of made a switch, right? It wasn't like a
Yeah. So I've been aware of PoE since like the very start. I've seen like the Total Biscuit video. I've seen Crip play it like early beta. But I was pretty dedicated to Diablo in terms of for the first few seasons. So like season 1, I joined one of like the best clans, and we were just pushing leaderboards, and that's all I cared about, just farming Paragon and pushing the leaderboards, being rank 1 in the group leaderboard aspect. And then slowly I got bored because like nothing changed. Like I played that pretty hard for 7 seasons in a row,
slowly.
7.5,
Okay.
I guess. And I've been aware of PoE, but I've only played like once or twice, and I just got to like Act 2 or Act 3, and I kind of got bored. It's like, this is kind of clunky. I'm like, my character's kind of shit. I'm like, well, why am I doing that? And then after season 7, I was like, okay, this is boring. Let's actually give PoE like a proper try when I like get to endgame and like experience everything. And then I was just like lost in PoE ever since. Like, yeah, it has so much stuff to do. It has so many like niches that you can get lost on for hundreds of hours compared to Diablo 3. Yeah.
Cool.
I do like how you always talk about PoE as if you haven't been playing it for that long, but you've been like solidly just playing PoE for what, 3 years or something?
I mean, in terms of like hours, of course I played a lot. I have like 6,800 on stream, but I've only started playing 3 years ago, and PoE has been out there for like 6, right, or even more, right? So I'm a relatively newcomer to PoE in the whole like long scope of the game sense, but I've been here for like ever since, I guess, the Generation 2 or whatever they're called leagues. Like I started in Breach properly. So
I always find it
Or
really
you wouldn't like it.
curious how I think this is a lot of the issues you have with stuff like Reddit, how the mindset of players with PoE gets fucked. Because for most games, if you've played a game for 3 months, like, I've played this game for a pretty long time. Whereas that's the case of like, no, you've experienced one league.
yeah, you're a complete new player. The thing about the Purposeful Harbinger stuff and about this balancing stuff, I wanted to mention this earlier when we talked about it. I would much rather have a league where crazy shit like this happens, and then that's the story of the league, and then we move on, and the next league has the next crazy story. Like imagine Delve when, you know, people were pushing deep, and then we got to like the end of that they said that's the deepest, and then we went further, and then they doubled it. Like, oh, that was pretty cool. Remember Legion League when we had full screen AoE Cyclone? That was cool. That was broken, but that was Legion League, right? Remember this league when you could aura stack and Purposeful Harbinger was pretty strong, and you could build builds like or synthesis, like the broken synthesis items. I would much rather have these types of leagues than a double goblin season where
Right.
wow,
Yeah.
people are spirits and stuff. Like
See, but that's because your first impression, I'm saying first as in like when you really put it at first, so good. But then like if I were to tell you, oh, remember that league where you had to pick up 5,000 talismans to make one tier 1 and currency
Yeah.
wouldn't stack and you wouldn't have shift click for stash or control? Like,
yeah, I mean
remember
that's
that
pretty
league?
bad.
Because you don't want to.
That's what I mean.
I
That
skipped
I
that
can't
one.
relate to the people who are like, oh, remember when it took 15 minutes to run a map because like white monsters took like 14 attacks to kill.
15.
You
Give
have
me a
to.
milk guy.
Hold
goddamn,
on,
that's
hold
crazy.
on.
Like I
15
didn't
minutes
experience
going
that at
bad.
all, so I can't relate to that at all.
Like when you were talking about maps, and like how only the map guy can drop the frags, and Nugi mentioned that that's what it was designed for. It used to be so crazy where essentially maps were this thing that was like multiple exalts, like 6-7 exalts would be exalting maps and shit. And the weirdest
yeah.
part about it is that everybody agreed that there was like all maps didn't belong to the group, they belonged to the guy.
Yeah.
And so people were playing with other people, right? So then the one guy would be getting all the maps, and the other people would give him currency to roll the map so that they could go into his map, and he was just like getting money out of it. It was such a weird system. I never
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So it was like that for years
Yeah.
too. It's like these people were just printing money for doing the same shit everybody else was doing, and everybody was
Except
okay
they
with it.
were
I'm
the
like,
map
oh,
host.
yeah, you're like
Yeah,
not
'cause it's
chipping in
like-
for the maps,
Because I
dog.
mean, it's like a community thing, right? Like if you're playing with a group of friends and there's always one guy who's like hosting the maps, then it's like, all right, it's time today we'll do this and this and this maps, and then we'll
Yeah.
get this out of it, and then tomorrow we'll be back and do some more maps, and you roll some more maps previously or whatever. And
See, but
then
that's the thing. Like, if somebody doesn't log in, then the person, like, if
oh
the
yeah,
map guy
then it
doesn't
falls
log
on
in,
him,
of
of
course.
course.
But like in
It's the
that
Atlas
case,
host.
you would go from like the highest tier maps to tier 1 maps because
Yeah.
Do you
you're not going to
remember
spend
the
6
race
exalts
where
per map to like
Cybrix
be able
fucked
to do
off with all
anything?
the maps and Crip's group just
He
got fucked?
died
Yeah.
with all the maps.
Yeah,
He had them all in his inventory.
What the fuck?
it's ridiculous. Man.
I
It
never
was-
remember. I never played with people without like outside of my group because I knew how much the guy who I was like giving currency was banking off my currency. I was like, no.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep it in house. That's the only way.
And they'd be so like angry. They'd be like, dude,
Yeah,
why aren't you giving me
yeah.
currency for maps? It's like, dog, like what the fuck? What do you mean? Dropping like 6x all the time. But then you would also have those situations where they would go like, so the highest ones were 78, and you would go all the way down to I think 64, 62 was the lowest back then. So they would literally like you would lose all your maps because shit just wasn't dropping, and they just you'd have to switch to a different guy, and he'd be like crying that he needs help and shit. It was good.
The thing which made it even
Abandoning.
wilder is I've had that exact
Yeah.
experience, but the first time I properly started mapping in a group, I was like the full MF Quant color build. And it's like I was adding full MF Quant color to the group and like, Tarke, you haven't given me chaos very, very recently. It's like, fuck you, dude, I'm the reason all these items are dropping. Like, and back then it was like you'd have like the Pentacurse support, you'd have the Cull support, then like 4 Marauders spamming EK doing 1 damage each. And it's like,
The good old
That sounds
Ito
wonderful.
Oh no.
I started in Warbends. I'm sad I missed out on this.
you missed out on some
Just
very...
to like flex on crazy. So in the first open beta race, the last closed beta race, we did one of our. So we were strung out of luck, and we only had a plateau. We really wanted a necropolis because there was way more monsters in there. But we were strung on a plateau, so we end up we alt regal, triple exalt, and then we mirrored the map. That was the extent of how valuable high-level maps were back then.
And then it didn't drop
Nice.
anything.
Yeah, no. Oh, we forgot to chisel it.
Oh no!
Oh,
no.
We had to chisel it before we mirrored it
Stop.
all the way up. That's a lot of currency.
Don't you hate that
Chisel's
when you
terrible?
don't you hate that when you remember to mirror your map but you forget to chisel it?
Yeah.
Relatable streamer
Hashtag
life.
relatable, yeah. Like the guy on Reddit who found out about you don't have to use 20 chisels for a map if you chisel before, and he's been playing for like 4 leagues. That one was painful to read.
Yeah. would we ever want, maybe not to that level, but would we ever want PvE to have those like insane maps again, where like the map drops, you're like, this is money, you know? Like a map with like a 50 exalt cost, or like a 28 exalt, or like.
I mean, you can build super high invested maps, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't drop that way though.
But
So
like
that would be like the missing piece. Like you don't
Mm.
randomly drop the super high value map, but like you could, if you wanted to, roll your maps until you get Sea Witches, Nemesis, and beyond, and like 28 pack size.
And then you quality it up with the master, or not master, betrayal bench or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd like-
I would like that to be better. I would like that to be. Hillock's bench needs to be buffed because it does not feel like, even in the context of making a bigger
Right.
map, it doesn't
Yeah,
feel
like
worth
it's
it.
like you're adding a few more
That's
shit holes
true.
on like
Yeah,
map.
like they could make it, give it like 60% quality
Yeah.
or something. I think it'd be fine.
juice
That'd
it
be
up.
nice.
Or make it so Hillock's bench can mirror a map, because I want the ability to mirror a map back without having to spend a mirror. Back in Best Jerry League, you could do that. I tried to make the perfect map. I never got to
Yeah.
finish my project. I want it back somehow.
Yeah.
see, but
I'd
the
like
thing
to
is, back,
see.
yeah, you go.
Okay, I'll go first. The as for the question of like, would we want like one high value map thing? I'd like to see it in the form of like a unique map with some sort of variable role.
Yeah.
So like Cortex kind of gets close, I guess, but when you can see and you get that map and you're like, oh, this thing
Maybe
is
you
worth
could,
like multiple
maybe it could
exalts.
have like an explicit and an implicit, and you could divine it and bless it, and based on those properties, whatever it does would change. Like maybe you could reroll the type of mobs on it,
Divinable.
or the number of monsters on the
Like
or,
the Venter's
do that.
gamble of a map.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
thinking that.
yeah.
Oh.
And then you couldn't mirror it, but maybe you could like, maybe they could add a beastcraft that like copies a unique map or something like that, so it's not broken.
I want more Beastcrafts, but we're not getting them. I don't think we're ever getting them.
Not enough people are engaging with that, I think,
Yes.
seriously too.
As much as
What
I
about
wouldn't
you?
want to go back, like the reason why the old system worked that way, where maps were multiple exalted orbs, is because there wasn't like an abundance of them. So what if we were
Yeah.
to take the current system where, you know, you get T16s, but it's not like super duper crazy unless you're actually like putting some effort into your shit, right? What if they were like tier 20 maps and they would be the same rarity as like 10 exalted orb drops, you know? Would that be something like appealing?
I
You know,
think.
players would just say, I
ever
can't
really
sustain
get
my
it.
tier 20 maps.
Yeah,
You-
it
I-
would just
yeah.
move the goalpost.
See,
It would move the
I do
goalpost.
worry about that.
That's why it has to be something like what Ziggy mentioned with Cortex, where it's clearly delineated that this is not part of the other system. You know, this is
Yeah.
other thing. You don't expect to sustain Cortex maps. Please don't go on Reddit and complain you cannot sustain your Cortex maps.
Teacher,
It's
I
a
have
different
question.
special thing.
I have a What if you could get, because now you can have multiple influence of the same kind. What if there was a rare chance you could get all the influence on a map? Like a tier 16 4 Conqueror map or something.
Oh, God. Do you hate your computer?
Yes. I feel like it hasn't been burning enough recently. Fun
Sure.
fact, my performance has
I mean,
gotten
if there's some
better
like
since I
lore
turned
dialogue in there
multi-threading off.
going on. Say that again?
My performance has gotten better since I turned multi-threading off.
Oh.
Yeah. I got really
My
desperate.
Performance just got
to
better
Yeah.
after the patches.
My performance was good, bad, good, bad, 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 bad. Then I put everything to low. Then it was amazing, and I'm slowly putting it back to normal.
Oh my god. I like didn't have internet for a week when Delirium launched, and I was like, oh man, when I started playing, I was like, oh man, they've really improved this. Like it's not clunky, blah blah
When
blah.
you're not
And then
streaming.
no. Like I was streaming and I was like, dude, this
okay.
is so nice. No, I was streaming, it was like a normal thing. And then it was 20 minutes before the patch. They released the patch. My shit just like immediately broke. I was like, no, dude.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to play, man. And it's been kind of crappy ever since. I'll maybe try the multi-threading thing.
The crashes, I really need to commend GGG on one thing. They finally did one league where the divination distillate doesn't crash the instance or the client.
Oh,
Every
that was the
single league since Betrayal, we use divination distillate with Soul Catcher, so we have extra quant on the carry that's killing shit, right? every time that would cause a crash, and they would always fix it within the first 3, 4, 5 days. But they would always crash. This is the first league that it didn't crash.
Was this the
Whoa,
league with the
actually-
Legion crashing? Or no, I think that was the previous one, right? Where you had to like sacrifice people. Somebody had to get kicked out of the map because he had to click the Legion off screen.
That was last league, yeah.
Oh yeah, Legion Generals, I think. No,
Yes,
yeah,
that
but
was
this
the-
league
the
we've
last
had the
league.
least crashes, like the least, almost no instance crashes, and very, very, very few client crashes. Like we had all low FPS and all that stuff, like we're used to that. But this league has been the best so far for us in terms of crashes, like the least amount of crashes, instance and client crashes.
That's the weirdest thing because you talk about like the cursor thing, you can spin in Diablo, but like you're fucking playing in a group in PoE, like you don't exceed 10 FPS. I would have thought by now you're used to it. Like this
Oh,
is
I am. That was just in relation to the question about like Diablo 4, and like I'm sure it's gonna be nice.
It's like playing on a 60 hertz monitor is fine for you, but 144 would be nice. Okay, I get it.
Sorry, I completely derailed us. What were you going to say before I like went on a different thing? Are you going to say something, Nugi? I talked about like the 5 Conqueror map. Or
There's
something.
no way he remembers.
I mean, I just thought it would be nice if there was some lore in there. Then, like they would talk to each other, like as you're going through.
Kirak.
You know,
I'm sorry.
they've had like a little. Maybe they have a meeting. You know,
It should
and
be
you
a thing.
stumble upon them, so they're all like in there.
That'd
You
actually
could,
be pretty sick. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
You could have a chance for double influenced items to drop, like double influence bases as a special.
Oh. Okay. Getting crazy over here.
I want Shaper and Elder Orbs. I don't know. why
Yeah, we
don't
can't
have
do that,
Shaper.
right?
See, I don't have a fundamentally good reason to not want that, yet
Yeah.
don't. I kind of like them being different somehow and not just a different shade of influence.
Okay, caveat.
But-
Does this change your point of view? I need to get an eye level 83 Elder Bow for my bleed build in SSF, so I can't use the Imperial Legacy gift card
need it.
anymore.
Okay.
So if we could maybe get Elder Orbs, that would solve that problem for me.
Have you heard about scarabs? Pretty
Yeah.
good.
Just Elder Scarabs.
Yeah.
I got an
You have to
86
link it, though.
helmet that way. On SSF, that's not easy.
It's
There
pretty
you
good.
go. Checkmate.
I got very lucky.
You look so damn satisfied with
I was
yourself.
very satisfied. I was
That
very
is the
lucky.
smuggest look I've seen on your face.
looks
I'm
like
not even
Tarke
using
levels
it
of
anymore.
I'm ignoring that comment, Raiz, but sorry, continue, Octavian.
I had reached the end of my thought there.
Okay. You
The
just
train
don't
has
like them
arrived.
for reasons.
I agree with you that it's fundamentally a thing that like should be in the game, but it's one of the last shreds of fundamental difference between the influence types of like the old influence of Elder Shaper and the new influence of the new kids on the block. If we could delineate those and make them feel significantly different some other way, then sure, throw in the other orbs. I want, as I said, I don't have a good reason. But I do feel strongly.
Maybe if they add some boom boom sound effects, then it'll be better. You'll like it more. Huh? Somebody mentioned fossils in the chat. What do you guys think about the changes to that?
I really like it.
Like,
I think they're really
Yeah.
good.
I like that it
Yeah.
adds more value to touched bases.
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm
I'd
still
like
a
to
bit
hear
bummed
that.
out.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm still a bit bummed out about like
Really?
fossils losing their like extra special juice. I feel like I need more time to sit on it to like really kind of feel out the long term changes to how this affects crafting. But there are a few cases where you're like, yeah, you can't get access to this stuff as early as you could because you could like fossil craft a
I mean,
bow a bit
specifically with
earlier
the
than you
build we're
could.
talking about, we can't do the 6-link thing anymore.
Yeah, you can't like have that sort of same style of access, whereas you have to get to the highest level content and then have a specific type drop of a specific type of influence, and like there's some things you can do to help that. So I don't know.
I think
Yeah, I'm
that's
still pretty undecided about it.
specifically
I'm a little bit
more
bummed.
just bleed and poison builds getting, because they got shafted more than
The-
anyone by the change.
They're really
That is
strong though
actually-
still.
Yeah,
and
no,
it
it's-
becomes more of a chase now rather than a I'm supposed to just get this
I
like as
mean,
my first
I'm
thing.
Yeah.
currently playing a bleed build SSF as my league start, like you
Yeah.
know, and I've
That
already
is,
played Poison Scourger and I had the same thing. I got so hyped when I finally got the bow, but you know.
That is a strong argument in favor of Shaper and Elder Orbs, though, because you have that level of, you know,
Right.
the ability to start with an untouched base, turn it into a touched one, and access those mods, and then fossil craft for them on other influence types. So yeah, no, I recant my earlier position. Shaper and Elder Orbs would be neat, with the fossil change in mind. I think that would make sense.
How would you obtain them?
Elder Shaper?
From
It'd just be a
Shaper
chance
and
to
Elder?
roll.
Blighted maps, obviously. Like
I mean,
everything.
possibly from Shaper and Elder. Yeah. Oh, God. Possibly from Shaper and Elder Guardians.
All right. Oh yeah, they should also be able to just like the other way.
How do we feel about the availability of those? Because that's kind of a hot topic at the moment as
The
well.
touched Exalted Orbs?
No, the actual like Guardians and the getting the fucking
Oh,
sets complete
okay.
and all that shit.
It's fine.
Horizoning between them would be nice.
Hmm.
Other than that, I like their drop rate and I
Yeah.
like their spawn rate with Xana.
The fact that horizons don't work anymore is like
That's so
pretty
sad.
spicy.
I don't understand
Wait, what?
why.
Because
You
you used
can't
to be able
Horizon
to
the Guardians
horizon.
into each other. So, for example, if you're an SSF Nugi, if you were like, I want Uber Elder, you could have like
Right.
30 of one and 0 of the other frag. So you're just
Ah.
fucked.
I mean, I'm just lucky.
Yeah, like
I
people
can
post
definitely
these
see someone
pictures,
getting,
like, they have like 10 of each, like literally 10 of each
Yeah,
and
yeah,
0
yeah.
of
No, I
another
can
one.
see.
Just RNG.
It's the
It was a
eyes
solid
all
meme
over
for
again.
the Awakener race because it already. I think it already didn't work, and like people weren't able to get
Mm.
the right maps.
How are we feeling about Atlas? Oh, sorry.
Just on the fossils before we move on, I think people aren't realizing how incredibly good fossils are for their deterministic nature.
Mhm.
Like I barely want to craft anything without using fossils.
People had the same fundamental reaction when fossils were added vis-a-vis essences. Like essences are
Right.
still a lot more powerful than people give them credit for. Any amount of like deterministic power in terms of crafting you should not be underestimated at all. Fossils are still quite powerful. A large part of the reason why they're cheap isn't, as a lot of people are assuming, that fossils are like way weaker as a crafting method than before, but because they just get shit out by the league mechanic now. Like the market is just flat.
I mean,
I think people haven't realized the full nature of like the full power of forcing a higher probability on certain mobs. Like people think, oh, I could just like alteration. Like even with jewels, you can use them on jewels. You know, so
and like blocking as well is incredibly powerful.
Yes.
I would actually say that the blocking aspect of fossils is probably more powerful than their encouraging aspect.
yes, like, it's essentially the same thing. You end up doing, but no, I see your point.
I've done more fossil crafting this league than I did last league, just because of the builds I've played. But I use them for my +3 bow. I use them to make like 20 different poison bows, and we use them again to make bleed bows. Like the stuff they can do with crafting is great, but I do like how essences are worth so much more now, and like the fact that you can do the get level 2 wands, then just like throw spell damage essences in them for easy like spell damage plus levels and all that other stuff. Multi-mod. I'm so glad they killed multi-modding. Because that was
But
really
then,
Yeah.
it's
It's
really
good,
good.
but
still.
like
Yeah,
it's still
boring.
very
I
good,
agree.
but like I'm so glad it isn't
with-
what it was
Yeah.
when
Right,
every item
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
alt, regal, and null multi-mod.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet justice.
It's really good now. It's
I
really
love
good.
it.
With influenced orbs as well, it works so beautifully with the influenced orb system, where you can like isolate these 2 powerful mods you want, multi-craft on a couple others, and then try and go for that big money slam at the end to like hit T1 fizz gained as cold or some crap. And then you accidentally slam into power charge gen on kill, and you're playing a trap build, and it doesn't do anything, and you're really bad about yourself.
Ooh, actually, speaking of things that have been improved, MP, how do you feel about the newly juiced incursion temples? Are you blasting through those, dude? Are you getting a lot of juice out of them?
They can be scary, but yeah, of course. I mean, they're part of the map, right? They get all the juice from everything you can
He's
put
talking
on
about the
map?
temple.
No, the temple.
Oh,
the one you
temple.
built.
It exists.
He didn't even.
I don't think I've set foot in it. I don't think I've set foot in a temple this league outside of buying double corruptions for my items.
You can make a T19 one now. You can fight a T19
Cool.
at series. That's kind of
Yeah.
neat, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Very
Yeah.
cool.
You seem enthusiastic.
very cool.
Hey,
He plays the
Maybe actually,
He
maybe I'll
doesn't
go
even
with temple. That sounds pretty good actually. T19 architect,
Mhm.
something boss fight, I guess.
T19 Katarina might be one of the more dangerous bosses around.
Mm.
Actually, she's scary.
there's a guy called Arthur who does hideouts. This might make someone do temple. He got a headhunter from a temple room in SSF this league.
Wow.
So, you know, that's pretty good.
Wow.
I've done a lot
And
of
you can
temples.
too.
Yeah, you just random.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the craziest thing. I've been hunting for Solta there this entire league, and I got one of those. What is it? The divination card that gives you a unique belt.
Hmm.
And I was like, ooh, headhunter, and then I actually got the Solta there. So rewarding. I've never had such a rewarding divination card. Great design, GGG. I always hated divination cards. Now I love them. I was like really shitting myself about it. People were like, dude, but it's not a headhunt. Like what are you?
The EU
Didn't
team I
cut out.
played with got 2 headhunters from Wretches this league in 2 weeks.
Wow.
They farm tower and drops there. Wretched also drops in cells, by the way. So if anyone in chat wants to
Yes.
farm some cells for some Wretched cards, it's fun.
I feel like some people unironically love it.
I really want to like it.
It's fun with high move speed phase
Lots of
run
work,
builds.
yeah.
and stuff.
It
There are
was
way worse.
I need
maps
the
than
right
cells.
build for it, but and then I will be blasting cells all day.
It was really good with Winter Orb back when that was a good build because it would target into all the
Yeah.
rooms. That
Mhm.
used to be really good.
It's still got so many doors though. It's still got so many little
Yeah.
prison
It's not a
doors you have
good
to
one
click
for
on.
this league.
Yeah.
Winter,
Like with the
Tarke,
wolves, yeah.
Winter Orb Castle
stuck.
channeling Frostblink.
Frostblink
There's the
is
cells
lit while
running.
leveling. You can like one shot
Oh,
every pack with
Frostblink.
Frostblink. Yep.
You can get like 500,000 hit
Mm.
damage on Frostblink in the
Wow.
end game.
I still think the craziest thing I've ever seen in terms of just like stupid drops is Derek, who's another hideout guy. His group blast, like they always race like 100 and they always do pretty well on
Oh,
the
man.
leaderboards at the start. They got 2 mirrors drop in like 30 minutes.
What?
They sent me the clip as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
solid.
They like none of them were like streaming or anything. They were just like mapping. You see the first one like oh, but in Russian, so oh, with an accent. I don't know. And then like
Raw.
Right.
and then like
Speak
another like
We-
15, 20 minutes
we
goes.
officially apologize to our Russian viewers.
Sorry.
That was on point.
Billiard mirror.
That sounded about right.
Derek, we're sorry.
That's about it. Yeah.
And then yeah, like 50 years came out, and then like they're freaking out because not only a mirror drop, but they're freaking out evil because they just saw one. Yeah. I'm broken now. Fuck. I was gonna ask if you guys like the Atlas, so I'm just gonna giggle in the background while you talk about that.
Atlas, yeah.
Yeah.
Atlas?
It's
Just
good.
like overall?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like
those
last time
are
we
good.
talked about the
More-
preferred
more.
map thing a little bit. It was mostly you'd fucked around with it, Nugi. Like, how are we feeling about the preferred map system now?
It definitely is something that it you need to go through the at least in SSF, you need to go through the stages of building up a map pool, I think. And then it feels good.
I'm sure it does.
Jesus, Tarke, so
I'm
rude.
sorry. It's just chat.
Oh,
Laughs in Russian.
I was thinking, did I say something stupid?
No. I'm still laughing at my terrible comment I made like 2 minutes ago, then chat.
There's definitely
No, I
something
get it
stupid
now, I
going
get
on.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you build like map pools based on regions of the Atlas? Or how do you do it? Organize it?
I agree. That is funny.
Yeah. You're
can.
right, Empy.
Regional Atlas thing. Lol.
I don't do that right now. It's just having enough
I
of
was
good
trying to
maps to
join
run,
the
so it's like
conversation,
nice.
as in-
It's a
You
nice
said it's
extra.
nice to build a map pool. How do you mean like a map pool? As in for
Right,
a
so let's
tier
say
or
let's
for a
say that you're
region?
just hitting 16s, right? You said all your preferred maps, right? You set all your preferred maps to what you want. But then you keep running, like you keep every now and like you don't get enough
you
of the
mean
map that you
after.
want to run, and so you have to run these side maps. So you kind of have to like, let's say you get a big enough pool of like tropical islands while you're building up to the next thing. So whenever you drop out of the next tier you want, you just run some tropical islands until you get 2 or 3 of the other maps you want to run. And so eventually you'll only have good maps you run, plus a ton of other crap maps you don't want to run. It just takes a little while for it to get rolling.
I think
As like a mapping strat for like racing, I don't think it's that great. I think the whole ping pong setup that people run is like the way to go, where you 100% guaranteed. Because like the act like 100% guaranteeing it is a big deal.
consistency is king.
Yeah, it really
try-hard
is.
environment
Especially
like
when
that.
there's like a
Yeah.
limited amount of time you have to reach a certain goal. And you can't
But-
just kind of like half pass it.
I think that's fine. If in
No, I
like
think
the
it's
edge
yeah,
case of
no, I don't-
tryharding, it's maybe not ideal. Like it's I think it's a fairly healthy way of setting up the end game. Have we recovered?
I think I'm okay.
Are we
now.
back?
I think I'm over
Okay.
it. Sorry about that.
Because last time I was a little bit frustrated, and that was mainly because I just came out of a race where I couldn't really make it work the way I wanted it to. But having just played through it as how it's intended now, it feels quite good, and you can easily swap to like another tier or another map, and it feels good. I'm tinkering a lot with it, and I'm really enjoying it for the preferred system at least.
How are you finding it, MP? Is it like what you wanted, or?
I haven't engaged with it enough to say. The system, like on the surface, it looks good, but we didn't use it in the first week, so we didn't know how good the system is. So we went for our old strategy of just not unlocking certain stuff and then only dropping precincts and then Horizon into burials, and we just sustain it like that. I am going for a full atlas, like for myself, but I'm like 1 or 2 days away because I've been doing so much other stuff for the first like 2 weeks, so I didn't get to do my atlas yet.
Are you going to do anything differently this time around, Octavian, since you're doing a fresh atlas, obviously with hardcore?
No, I really like just a full completion setup. It also gives me like a longer grind in the end game because you have, get everything done, get bonus objective and everything, then get awakener objective on everything.
Yeah.
And usually by that point on my starter character where I'm like fiddling with, getting past 80, 100 awakener objective, I'm like, yeah, I'll make a new character now. It keeps me engaged with a new goal every time I leave my map device all the way through to the end game. I mean, like all the way through to level 95 or higher even.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, late second and third characters and stuff still have some progression to do after your first character now, whereas before you just blast your way through to max tier maps. Now it's there's still like quite a bit more to be done usually, and it's getting like a little bit harder as well. Like the waiting levels are going up and stuff like that.
The one thing
tier, having to do Hall of Grandmasters and stuff is kind of scary.
The one thing I dislike about the new system that I did, I think I mentioned it when we had the pre-league podcast with the devs, is that the scaling of map mods being tied to awakening bonus means you can't turn it off. So now that I'm going into hardcore, I'm worried that my second character might I may forget that with my second character and put in a map that is on the edge of what it can handle, and then it's actually 25% harder than it said it would be on the map, and now I'm dead.
It feels great. I can tell you for a fact. It's a fantastic feeling, when you get punished for playing the game. I don't know. I really don't know why they haven't. I mean, they clearly thought about it. It's just
like
I guess they never really saw Atlas as something as customizable as it is right now. So it's just like kind of an afterthought. But
I don't really see why there isn't, because you only get the benefits while you have the risk. So if they just had a little checkbox next to your awakener bonus that you could go, yeah, not right now, you wouldn't get any benefit out of it while it's turned off. You turn it back on, you get the risk and the benefit at the same time. Like it kind of breaks the immersion, I guess, of the system, where you're supposed to be exploring your way through an ever-changing, undulating, more and more difficult and Atlas system, and being able to just say nah, not today is a little weird, but it would be fine as a band-aid fix until they have something that they're more okay with in the meantime.
I mean, it's the same thing with the fact that we can't go backwards and fight like white conquerors and
Yeah.
stuff. It's really weird.
Hmm.
Especially with how much effort they put in for like white, yellow, red elder, and it's like we really want to have this system because we don't like how everything's just at end game. We want it to be accessible to everyone, and they've just gone backwards.
Oh,
on it.
So I don't know if they can implement it with the current system, but someone in chat actually had a really good suggestion, which is that Awakener bonus only activates for the character on that atlas when you kill Awakener with that character. It kind of makes some thematic sense, and then you don't get screwed over by having, super scary maps immediately. It would mean that if you wanted to test your character immediately against the hardest content, you'd have to go kill an Awakener, which could be a little annoying.
People build like multiple characters specifically to like avoid this because they just want to have like a nice mapping character, and then they make like an easy cheap boss killer, like a summoner or something easy,
Yeah,
whatever, and then
really badly.
they kill their own kill their own bosses with that sometimes. Fuck with that a bit.
I don't know. Just make it a button you can press.
Yeah, like an
Just
option.
make it a checkbox.
Sure.
Well, to me, the weirdest part
Everything's
is
gonna be a chat box.
whoa.
Theme
The
park
weirdest part to
video
me
game.
is like the scaling of it, because it's supposed to improve the amount of masters you get, and that's kind of hard to judge because it's been extra wonky this league with like them
Yeah.
not appearing and whatnot. But like when you need them the most, which is early on, you get them the least, and then you kind of like juice it up, but you don't really have a choice in doing it. So, and then it's tied to the preferred system as well, because you need the bonus completion. So a lot of the times you're going to end up with the awakening levels and all that. So
It's so hard to
It's a odd
gauge
one.
the master mission, like not spawning bug shit as well, because like I doubt there are people saying, oh, I still haven't had blank, but are people actually taking notes? Because it's so easy to forget, like, when did you last get blank? Like when Cassia wasn't working, that was easy to tell because like you couldn't talk to the bitch. So it's like, oh, it doesn't
and
work.
she spawned non-stop.
Yeah.
For
Oh my
fuck's
god,
sake.
it was the worst.
Non-stop.
The blight is trying to spread.
Wait, I thought she just didn't show up. Like she showed up, but you couldn't do
No,
anything.
you couldn't talk.
You know how like when
Oh.
she shows up,
Yeah, it's the
you have
worst.
to like you talk to her or something. The pump like spawns the thing that's clickable. It just
Yeah.
wouldn't spawn. Yeah.
Oh.
just
The
stand next to
clickable
her.
part wasn't there to like actually start the encounter.
Would she just like berate you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
Like,
much.
Spawn Towers Exile. Do the mission
no.
Exile.
No, it should be like you're like, oh, it's Cassia again. Fantastic. Can't do shit.
I am curious how many people who are saying that they're not getting like Nico, it's just RNG, or they actually have got it, but they just forgot that it was like a master mission or whatever.
I definitely wasn't getting it before. And
All of them, or just a specific one?
it was definitely everything. And then on the next
Yeah.
character, I would get like Betrayal and Alva, I think, but then nothing else.
Hmm.
And then on one more character, I didn't get a single one because we were like extra paying attention to it. I
Yeah.
didn't get a single one until 95.
Mm.
So that was a especially weird one.
Yeah, I
So-
remember running like red maps back to back, and remember like there was like a danger that never came. That's how I noticed it. Like I never got like ambushed by anything. There's never these like beasts in the map. I never had to go down into an Elva. It kind of dawned on me when people said, "Oh, but they're not spawning." I was like, "Oh, you're right."
Yeah. It really clicked at some point, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It definitely, like I said, I don't think it like anything changed on that character. It spawned. It just took an extremely like ridiculously long
Yes.
time. So I don't know if a lot of people just don't get to that point, because they only play until like level 80, and at that point, yeah, probably they haven't gotten it.
I mean,
But
a guy in chat says it's a 10% chance to spawn a master, not 10% per. So divided by all, that's actually 2% per master. So it'd be quite easy that, yeah, if you ran like 100 maps or 200 maps,
Right.
you might not see one or two.
It could just be that. I mean, it could just be RNG.
Because like we
They are running. I don't know if you saw. They are actually running.
Yeah, Bex made like a
internally.
tweet and she was like, speak to
Yes.
me and this, that, and the other, and they're trying to work it out. Yeah.
Like they have like a system that's like pretty much scours through players' data and checks like exactly if the player has said, "Hey, I haven't seen anything." but then they'll go through the logs and they'll see, oh, it spawned, or whether or not it spawned or didn't spawn at all through the whole mapping experience.
Do we know that it's 10%?
Yeah. Also, Zai made a really good point. And if you're running a mission, you're not going to get a wild mission.
Yeah.
And now people are running more missions than they were before, because before you'd like, oh, you forget to talk to your Einhar or whatever. Whereas now you're like doing them constantly.
Mm.
So,
Very true.
yeah. It also, like, it wouldn't be surprising if just like they over nerfed it with the whole Awakener thing, and the fact that you just get it's weird that they decided to attack master missions of all the things with the whole Awakener.
But that shouldn't affect it, right? Because it's only for the mission spawns and not the wild ones. They didn't decrease the amount of.
I thought it was for
like,
both. Or was it just the mission spawn?
Maybe. I'm not. Oddly enough, I'm not the best with remembering shit. So it could be that it's not that, but I thought it was just the missions. Actually, isn't it easy to just check in game?
Yeah, just Google it.
I have a question.
Google it.
Sorry,
So,
Bing it.
do we prefer, like, do you am I crazy if I say that I actually prefer them not spawning and it just giving us missions and we decide when we go? I feel like everything is so cluttered anyway, so I mean, I kind of,
Sure.
if I get to decide when I run them, I feel really good when I do, and I don't feel I'm missing out because it's such a low chance that they spawn.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Just boost the numbers a little bit and just they don't spawn wildly. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, it is Atlas mission when completing a map, but I also just realized that I have 9 awakening bonus, and that gives me 0% additional chance. So that's great. It actually scales down. Fuck my life. That's the worst.
Because like, there's also lots of times where like wild masters can spawn at the wrong time and it can fuck you a little bit. Like you are sat on soul fight, but you don't want a Nico just yet. But then the Nico spawns. You're like, oh, I've kind of got to do that now. Or like you haven't done the Jun safe house yet, and then Jun spawns, and you got one less.
I'm surprised. That's the cool part of it. Like having to like tweak stuff, and especially when it comes to betrayal, like you can still get genuinely ambushed by betrayal. I like it.
Yeah, I guess.
Nico, I kind of want to keep like, I don't know.
I guess with betrayal it wouldn't
intervention
make sense. Yeah, because it's if you're choosing every intervention, then it defeats the entire purpose of the mechanics. So.
I mean, they can keep betrayal as their one thing, you know. I mean, I wouldn't mind that.
You will allow it, okay?
Thanks.
Yeah.
With all these like weird master mission bugs and like we spoke about performance as well, like how are we predicting the retention of this league? Obviously, there's the thing going on, which means people are staying home more. But like, do we reckon it's gonna have a big drop off, or is it just Reddit shouting into the abyss?
Isn't it like the worst ever?
I think Delirium is kind of a poor mechanic for retention, though it does have more endgame depth than Legion did, because it's not just like the Legion equivalent, I guess, would be the Simulacrum, but it's got the Delirious Orbs as well, which is customizable endgame content.
Yep.
But it's still not like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just speaking too subjectively, because to me it doesn't feel like there's nearly as much meat on the bones as there have been in some. It feels close to a Legion or a Blight for me, and those are leagues that did not hold my attention for very long compared to something like a Delve or a Synthesis.
I mean, there's no way that Delirium would hold your attention compared to a Delve or a Synthesis, because you're the kind of player who engages with that, and that's like it's like the perfect
as I
league
said,
for you.
subjectively.
So, yeah.
But we also did see a fairly significant drop off in Legion and Blight's player base, right? Or am I misremembering that?
No, Legion did have a bit of a. I mean, Legion was one of those leagues where it came out. I'm like, I love this league. This is great. But then I got bored of it because it was just the same thing, and there was no progression. I don't know. I think for the casual player, like I consider myself a casual player because by streamer standards, I don't play as much. I only do 6 to 8 hours a day. But like, I like the fact that I've got the goals of I'll do a Deathless 2020 Simulacrum. Usually when like a big new league boss comes out, I'm never like that driven to do it. But for whatever reason with Simulacrum, maybe it's because it's more accessible or whatever reason, it's like there's a lower barrier to entry. So you're more likely to want to push it to the furthest point rather than like trying to get an all to spawn because it's just pure fucking RNG on if it turns up or not.
It's definitely not the worst ever. What was the last league
no.
was Metamorph, then what was
Blight.
Blight, and
Yeah.
then before that was
Legion.
Legion.
Yeah, I think.
Synthesis.
then it has to be something with because Steam charts show by month and it's like an average and stuff, so it's kind of hard to tell because it depends on when the actual league started. Here it starts like 27, 25. This is 9th is when the big spike happens. It seems like it's pretty intense, but then at the same time, there's definitely like pretty much over the course of the last 2 weeks, it hasn't dropped at all. And it's even been increasing over the last week. So I think maybe
What's that now, sorry?
the virus might have something to do with it. I got you covered, Tarke.
Yeah.
It's like 74,
Yeah.
something like that.
That's good.
Peak.
Yeah.
So average is like 42. Yeah. For less. No, it's 47 for the last 30 days.
I'm really curious to see if next league gets delayed or whatever, because obviously everyone at GG is working from home. It's gonna be interesting.
I think there's gonna be a race for sure.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna
Flashback, you mean?
Yeah.
Could be.
I think there's gonna be like an extra month of something. That
It's going to be an interesting one as well, with people having figured out cluster duels and different builds as well now. That'd be a very interesting flashback.
Yeah. I think it would be a fun one. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
they never really want to do stuff like that, especially if it's like, because usually they would. It's been a long time actually. Now that I think about it, since there's been a
Like Synthesis was the last one,
Yeah,
right?
I think
Synthesis, yeah.
Synthesis, yeah.
Yes.
So that's a really long time ago. That's like 2 years or something. No,
Oh,
What?
how long has it been?
Since this was like
9 months.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
how can it be 9 months? We just
Because
named
it was just
4 different things.
before. No, it was just before Legion, and Legion is
Yeah.
the June one last
Legion
year.
is the second one we named.
It's been a
Our
year.
perceptions of time is so
Blight,
screwed.
Legion.
with the
Really?
Yeah, it's been 1 year,
Hmm.
Raiz.
A year's still long, okay,
year?
but
Oh, just a
also
year.
it was in the league, right? It wasn't like an extra month or anything
Yeah.
like
It's
that.
the end of
I think
the-
this would be an extra.
Oh, you're right. We're at. Oh, I'm stupid because like since this was the one we're in now, right? Ish.
What? I'm confused though. What do you mean, are we in
Was there
Synthesis
even
now?
a race in
Like a year
Synthesis?
ago was this was the Synthesis League a year ago?
Oh, right, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. And then the next and then the next one would be yes.
Blight, Metamorph,
It was
Legion,
like 11 months ago,
Synthesis.
whatever.
Yes, a year.
Yes.
Watch
Yes.
as 6 streamers struggle to understand.
What was before?
It's become so
Someone
weird.
get us a calendar.
Okay,
I can't.
so here's the crazy part for the
Okay.
people who have been playing for a while. Hasn't it been like 20 leagues now? Like that's such a fucking ridiculous
I
concept.
think it's
to me
more.
that there's been that many.
I mean, technically, there's more if you count hardcore and
Like-
softcore leagues used to be separate.
How about this? Just keep them together.
Sure.
I think we're like 25 to 8-ish, aren't we?
I
Haven't
mean,
they kept the cycle forever? Like with 4 a year?
okay, so
God.
this is my 7th year of playing PoE because I started playing in 2013. I think I played for like a year before leagues came out. So I don't know, like 6 times
Okay.
3, 18 leagues.
Next league is the 30th league.
Oh,
there
wait.
you go.
Oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, no, it's like this. I got blown away last time I heard it. as well.
29 leagues
Damn.
is how many we've
Crazy.
had.
Okay, that's
Fucking hell. Yep.
How
Still
short
living
were
in my
leagues
mom's
when they first
basement,
came
let's
out?
go.
I remember playing for what felt like a really long time before leagues.
I think there was like a few short, like longer ones, right? And then they were
Yeah.
like, they turned them all into 3 months.
That I
Mm.
think that is counting softcore and hardcore at the start, though. That'd be
Right.
31. That must be.
Probably, yeah.
What? Oh, actually, wait.
Yeah,
How many
the
seasons?
whatever was-
Oh
Yeah,
no, it
before.
is separate. Actually, it is all the leagues counted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So some of these do have the same date. It would be
Probably 24, 20. So.
there were 7 leagues that were the same. Yeah, Talisman was the first global one, I think.
Oh, what a great start. For
Oh my
anyone who
god,
doesn't
that's even worse.
remember back then, the
Ima-
way that Talisman used to work is you would drop the Talisman, and the monsters would actually like pick them up and become more interesting.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that used to be a
No
thing.
wonder
I remember
fucking
using
absolutely
the
hated
thing
it.
that spewed out worms everywhere, and you
Dead
would
hands.
sustain flasks of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's when core was crazy. And you
What?
could
How
like
did this
flask sustain on
happen?
core with giving him the worms.
I'm so confused. How did they go from releasing 2 leagues like Warbands and Tempest to releasing 1 league that's Talisman? What the fuck? What went wrong?
It was Talisman into Parandus into Prophecy was so much worse to me than Talisman. Because Prophecy was just, that was a dead
Oh my
fucking
god,
league.
Prophecy. You're right. Prophecy was the 3rd league of this.
Yeah.
It was an entire league.
Yes.
I thought Prophecy was one of those double leagues.
No, Prophecy was so rough, I actually quit the game. I skipped Essence. I was really sad that I skipped Essence, because Essence was a really good league, and I came back in Breach.
Yeah, I actually did the same.
Dude, Softcore really, I don't know. Because first it was, okay, Onslaught League, which was literally 20% faster. That was the hardcore league. The softcore league was Anarchy, which is
Actual
Wait,
like content back then.
Exiles.
That
that's
was
like
uh,
Exile, so that's
Exiles.
real content.
Yeah.
I was sick
Okay,
then.
then it was Nemesis League for hardcore and Domination League for softcore, so
Softcore got
shrines.
all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
And they had all the
Yep.
items which like interacted with shrines and stuff.
You think so? I think Nemesis was cooler than Domination.
Nemesis
Shrines
was
versus
okay.
Nemesis
Nemesis was
mods.
cool, but then we got Bloodlines, which was just Nemesis
I mean,
2.0.
we got Headhunter, right?
True.
Ah.
Yeah, we won.
Well, we definitely won the next one because it was Ambush, which is boxes, versus Invasion, which is sicko mode, dude. Invasion was the best. And then it was Beyond
Yeah, that was good.
versus
Ooh, that was-
Rampage. Yikes.
Makes up for Onslaught.
Jesus, Rampage was the softcore league? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that. And then it
That
was
was a good meme
Bloodlines
league.
versus Torment. So Ghosts versus
Oh
Blue
no,
Mobs.
that was double whammy.
Can we take a
Ooh.
moment just to appreciate how fucking spooky Delirium Martyr Ghosts are? I feel like ghosts get like juiced up way more than any other mechanic when it comes to Delirium.
Martyrs is just the worst. I hate Martyr with a passion.
It's good for like waking you up, like you zone out and then you're just like, oh, I'm playing the game. But I'm like,
And
It's the
pretty
scariest
fucking-
thing. I don't know if I would want to remove though. I feel like they good. Somehow they make it. They signal it kind of well. I feel like I always
signal
know
better
there's
now.
a martyr ahead of me.
I just assume that any monster that's touched by a tormented spirit
Yes.
will explode.
They've
Yeah.
got like,
Like
a
that's-
little,
You just make that assumption.
like a red flare sticking out of him that's like burning. So you can kind of see it, but you know, if you're playing a Death Oath build, you're screwed. Oh yeah, didn't they change it so that I haven't actually read the post? The Purposeful Harbinger doesn't it actually affect Death Oath now?
oh, that's cool.
I remember.
Oh,
Or is it still on
Shouldn't.
you, or is it?
I mean, it's auras from your skills.
our skills. So you need to
It's
cast
auras
the
from your skills.
Yeah.
That should affect
Then it would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should affect it. Because before it was on
Why?
you, which
Avian doesn't work anymore.
You could just do like rallying cry, because rallying cry stacking
you-
works. You could do
If you
rallying
use
cry.
Sakawal's
Death Oath.
chest, you burn your Avian into an aura, and that still doesn't get scaled. So I
Mm.
don't think that Death Oath would work.
I mean, you
I'm
can also
sure
use
someone in chat
like
has
all
tried
the
it
all the
since the
beast
patch.
things. You can use with Lone Messenger as well because they're not aura skills.
Oh.
well, I look forward to killing myself to a martyr
Death Oath
with my
doesn't-
Death Oath build.
I feel like we've kind of exhausted. When we start counting the leagues, I feel like that's kind of like when you've exhausted the topic. Is there anything else anyone would like to mention?
I love counting podcast. That's my favorite podcast.
Yeah.
How high can we count, guys? Let's go. 1.
Shit.
Oh.
I guess
Yeah,
that's
there's gonna be a
about as high
race.
as we can count.
Oh,
There's gonna be a
yes.
race. Yeah. Camel is
18th.
organizing another community race. The 18th, is it?
What
Yes,
sort of
the
race is
18th.
it?
80
Level
race, I
80
think.
race,
Mm.
yes. Should be good. Keep an eye out. Chat's counting away. Good job, chat. Yeah, keep an eye out for the racing action. If you enjoyed the previous races, the Exile cons and all that jazz, well, they'll be casted and everything like that. So keep an eye out for it.
Nice.
Well,
Keep going, chat. Science needs you to find the highest number.
well, in that case, since it seems like we hit everything, Empy, I'd like to thank you for coming on. And if there's anything you'd like to shout out, feel free.
Nope. Just enjoy the league like I do. I guess I don't know. I'm really enjoying this league, so I hope most people do. But yeah, I got nothing.
Congratulations for winning a BAFTA PoE. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, 7 more years of PoE, right? That's what Chris said.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm Tarke. Thanks everyone for coming on, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Did you like that Raiz? I let the guest like plug things. How professional was that? That was good, right?
That was good. That
Yeah.
was smooth, dude. That was
Dude, I
professional.
plugged Path of Exile. I should have plugged Diablo 3.